are occupying 84% of the land. I think that's a great improvement than what we are currently occupying, which is almost 100% of the land. And that just creates a better pleasing area for downtown, the downtown corridor. So we would be asking for a waiver from the 84%, from the 80%, I'm sorry, to the 84%. And mostly because the units right now are already quite on the smaller size as they are. To go even smaller, risks, it being too small actually in terms of square footage for those units. So for example, if we go to the next rendering, you'll see this is the actual rendering of the height of the building. We have brought it down to 36 feet so that we do not have to go to BZA for approval, and we could hopefully expedite this process, because currently right now we're 100% vacant, as you know. So it is in our best interest to try to swiftly move this along. If you go to the next slide, you'll see that's just the cellar, the basement, which will be utilized by the retail units. And if you go to the next slide, is the actual retail units. This was all shown in the last BOT meeting, so I'm not going to go into too much detail on it unless anyone has any questions. If you go to the next slide, those are the actual units. So if you could look at the square footage of these units, they are, already on the smaller side, whether it's a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom. So we would just ask for consideration in regards to that area calculation, being that we're creating this enormous, setback. In addition to the sidewalk footage that's there, it could be approximately close to 25 feet of nice setback of the building from the curb. I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, everything else is the same as before. The only real change that we made since the last meeting was the 40 feet, because there was an issue in regarding that would have to go to BZA. So we reduced the height of the building to 36.
So when you're talking about the rear setback, it's
Yes.
The second floor, third floor that the rear setback needs adjustment.
Correct.
The first floor is already
20
set back by 20.
20 feet, correct.
I know this is not the final, obviously, approval, because after this has to be sent to the Nassau County Commission plan, and then it's going to come back to us.
Correct.
But as far as the front, a suggestion that I would like to make as part of the, again, I know that we're not getting into the community benefit, but I think as part of that, I would like to suggest to have sidewalk lights that are actually the poles that we put in. I would like to start introducing that to the village. There's another building up north by Arundel that has put that around the building. I think that gives a nicer look to the village, and also it provides better lighting and a safer area. So just a suggestion.
Sure, we're not opposed to that. I mean, the getting into that setback, basically, we feel that there's tangible benefits and costs and intangible benefits and costs associated with it. Obviously, creating that front area, the exterior green wall, the exterior lighting, as the mayor just mentioned, the exterior custom hanging planters, the exterior large flower planters, front and rear, the brick sidewalk with waterproofing and reinforcements for future outdoor display sculptures. One of our suggestions is to make it somewhere where not only the village residents would like to come to, but also as a sculpture, instead of putting the sculpture that we may have, we would propose that it could be a local artist, a regional artist, where we can work with the Chamber of Commerce, where you can bring in other folks from outside of the village into this business corridor, and hopefully further revitalize and help the businesses that are there. So that is a suggestion that we would propose, and we'd be happy to do that. We do feel the intangible benefits are, there's a massive improvement to the center of the downtown business corridor just by looking at the renderings. Modernizing, developing a beautiful building that revitalizes a dying section of Great Neck. Create a beautiful modern center and plaza where residents can gather, meet, have lunch, dinner, coffee, tea. Create a successful modern building that other commercial property owners will see and want to reinvest into their own properties and to the benefit of Great Neck Village as it really is in much needed and overdue revitalization. Attract young and older generation to live in downtown and create a vibrant and thriving commercial and residential atmosphere. Attract people to the Great Neck Village through, like I just said before, the Chamber of Commerce events. And also, we would take, obviously, by asking for a third floor and not doing our as of right, basically, there is some loss in income from our side in terms of the retail square footage. So, we all feel that there's a lot of tangible and intangible costs associated to this project that it would greatly benefit the village.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
No, I don't.
The back of the building, I just have a question. On the back of the building, how far, compared to the diagram that showed the dumpster next to it, how far out does it go in comparison to that? Is it?
Well, right now, the sidewalk that you see that's there, that's actually still our property line.
Uh-huh.
So it is set back, I believe, 10 feet right now, 10 feet.
Existing is 10,
It's 10 feet.
And they're gonna go to 4.
Right.
and you're gonna go to 4.
No, with
four
the-
on the
No,
second
we're-
floor.
We have a
So-
cantilever.
Oh, I see, so
So
it's
we're
not
at
gonna
20. We're
exceed-
actually going in further, another 10
Okay.
feet.
Okay,
It's gonna go like
okay.
this.
No, yeah, that's what I wanted to know. Okay,
So
so
it's
it,
4 feet to here, but it's here's 20 feet.
okay, so it's not going to exceed what's there, and it won't
Correct,
affect the
Pushing
parking?
correct.
back.
It'll look
but
more
on the
open.
second floor,
It'll be more open, okay, that's
Right,
good.
so we have about 100 feet right now. We're occupying probably 90 feet of the depth of the property. What we're proposing is we're only going to be using, if you calculate from that standpoint, about 75 feet, is it? 10, 15, yeah, 20, no, I'm sorry.
No, less.
65 feet.
Yeah.
We're only using 65 feet because we're doing 20 in the
Right.
back. So our footprint, our retail footprint has dramatically decreased, reduced, just to create this community benefit. And hopefully, our calculation is that if all goes right, we can try to recoup some of that from the residential units.
That was our hope.
Yes. Well, I think more importantly is it's just the beginning of probably other owners wanting to revitalize. I think that's the most important. It's kind of like a penguin effect, right? Someone has to be the first one, and everyone else kind of follows behind you. So hopefully we can create that penguin effect where other people want to reinvest in their properties. I'm sorry.
You
So-
reduced the height to 36 feet. Where did that extra footage go?
Unfortunately, it reduced the retail height and it reduced the residential height of the units.
So what are the residential heights going to be now?
It is now, the residential heights are 11 foot and 11 foot, but that's the actual gross. So their actual net would probably be about 9. And then the retail is 14, so the actual gross might end up being 12 or 11, maybe even smaller than
Nine's
that.
still a very nice, healthy.
No, 9 is nice, yeah.
It's, well, you know what, I mean,
Basketball players
if you look today, everything's high ceilings,
Right.
right? I mean, it's not like when you look at buildings built 50 years ago or 100 years ago,
It's not gonna
everything's,
be- it's not
doors
gonna
are
be
small,
big.
everything's smaller. Even in the 80s, the doors were small. If you look at these doors in houses now, they're huge, right? So everything's big.
I think it's still pretty healthy.
I mean, we would love to have 40, but my understanding from the village is that that is a BZA process.
Right.
And honestly, with 2 tenants gone, we just don't have the time for that.
Peter, you want to say the next?
Well, first I was just going to comment about the 9 feet is good for some, but I believe my associate has a proposed resolution, just so that you, the board will recall, microphone. board will recall, as was stated by the applicant, that this cannot go forward with final decisions this evening. Based on the underlying application, I believe that what the board can do this evening is direct our office to make the referral to the Nassau County Planning Commission when the documents are fully assembled, and similarly to seek lead agency status and to take the steps necessary to accomplish that, as well as for this board to assume site plan and architectural review jurisdiction. So those 4 things could be accomplished tonight, and I believe that the balance of the approvals will have to await another board meeting when all those other items have been accomplished.
So, and as far as the incentive goes, all those things will be decided and discussed at the later meeting.
That is correct, sir.
Okay. Okay.
With that being said, is there
You'll
a-
get to questions. Go ahead.
with that being said, is there a resolution to seek lead agency status, assume architectural review pursuant to Village Code 575-182, assume site plan review pursuant to 575-225, and also resolve to authorize the Village Council to send notice to interested agencies pursuant to State Environmental Quality Review Act, and refer the application to the Nassau County Planning Commission pursuant to 239M of the General Municipal Law.
Before we do that, do you want to open it up for any comments?
We are not doing, this is not a public comment anyway, we're just having.
No, I know.
We're going to have a meeting, we're going to have
It's
this
not-
meeting later on before they get the approval.
I have some questions.
Well, we can keep the questions.
Is
to
it
the end.
relevant to the resolution, the proposed resolution?
Well, certainly. Process is process.
But this is not part of the process to have these questions when this is not a final presentation. This is just a presentation to get us, approve them to go to Nassau County. After they get an approval, they come back and you can ask as many questions at that
So
time.
you do know that I'm fully aware of the process, and therefore, questions after the presentation, questions can be asked that might in fact change what goes to the Nassau County Planning Commission, in which case, entertain the questions.
It's up to you. Okay.
Steve, we can.
I'm not going to supplant you.
It's
I'm just
okay.
going to stand next to you. Thank you.
I'm just gonna drink some water.
It's,
Okay.
Yes, Rebecca Rosenblatt, Gilliar, 15 Hicks Lane. I have a couple of questions I wasn't clear about. First of all, there were 3 things I think that the applicant said were going to be requests for waivers, and they were run through pretty quickly, and I didn't understand what they were.
Okay.
Okay. No,
Yes, please do.
The first one was the parking requirement. We have 7 car parking in our presentation.
So just say the things that you're looking for.
Okay. The 80% building area calculation,
Okay.
we're at 84. In the rear yard setback, currently we have 20 for the parking and 4 for the residents, the residential units above. And we're requesting a waiver on that.
Requesting, okay. So the rear yard setback is, you're requesting a waiver on the rear yard setback?
On the 10 feet,
On the 10 feet.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
only for
You're
the,
welcome.
only for the
Thank you.
second and third floors,
What?
for the second and third
For
floors.
the second and third floor.
Not for the, not for the-
Correct.
Because we're at 20 on the first floor.
Okay.
We exceed on the first floor.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next question. The height of 36 feet, does that include any air conditioning unit that would go on the roof?
I don't think so. No, the equipment I think is extra. You want to take it?
According to our understanding of the building zoning code, it would not include that.
So how much higher would the building actually appear to be with the air conditioning unit on the roof?
Rebecca, I think that that's not a very good question. If you'll forgive me, the air conditioning equipment would only appear to be higher if it was front to the building. Air conditioning equipment is going to be centered probably in the building, as most are, so that from the street you won't see it.
Right. But this isn't a zoning board. At the zoning board, the questions would be very different. I'm asking because
I know what you're asking, and
You're
it's a
asking-
relevant question.
it's not actually 36 feet, it's 36 feet plus an air conditioning unit, and that just makes it on the record accurate,
Okay.
whether I can see it from the street or
Rebecca, you know
not.
one thing that we said? All these things will be discussed when it comes to the presentation in the later
Th-
meeting.
this is just to give us the
this is
opportunity
just
to review it.
see, to look and see, do we like it? Are we going to accept it as the lead agency? Are we going to send it to Nassau County? That's all we're discussing. We're not getting into the size of the bedrooms, the size, if it's going to be 2 or 3 feet higher for the air conditioning or what is the other thing, the elevators. All those things we will discuss at a later time, and it needs to be addressed. It will be addressed at that time. We are not discussing it at this
And that'll be a relevant question at that time, but.
When
but-
the BZA sends things to the Nassau County Planning Commission for time out of mind, for decades, first, you go through everything that you want to look at on that application so that when you send it to the Nassau County Planning Commission, you're not looking them to hopefully give approval for something that you don't want to take a stand on. This is an issue where you don't send it to the Nassau County Planning Commission first. You iron out some of the details first, and then you send it to them because it's a legitimate application.
Okay.
I think the process matters.
It
and I
does,
think-
and we did iron out some of the details before we were sending it out, but
So
continue.
I'm asking you some questions. The retail area is, I'm sorry, the applicant said the retail area is diminished to create community benefit. Did I hear that correctly, or?
The size, I'm sorry, the size of the retail area where it currently stands would reduce to create that benefit.
I'm sorry, say.
Would reduce to create that benefit. We would have to reduce the retail floor space to create that benefit.
I see. So in other words, what you said was the retail area, if you were to make it any smaller, it would be to the detriment of the community. That's what you're saying.
No,
No.
Yes?
no.
No.
No,
know
the
what,
current
and
building,
again-
the current building has no setback, okay? This proposed building is 15 feet setback from the curb, okay? So the retail area is shrinking by 15 feet in the front,
In
And
order
by
to
an
give back
additional-
15 feet to the public.
and by an additional 6 feet or 10 feet in the back?
Right.
On the
Sidewalks will be
retail is shrinking considerably in order that we may have that plaza in the front, which would be a benefit to the community. That's what the applicant is saying.
Okay, I got it now, thank you.
Okay.
I got that, thank you, okay. There was something, there are a couple of things that I think we have to straighten out. It happens chronically, and I think that it's important that we pay attention. The Village of Great Neck doesn't have a downtown. I keep saying that. The English language has words in it that have definitions.
Rebecca,
We
please
don't have-
stick, no,
we
listen,
don't
Rebecca,
interrupt me.
Rebecca, but you
Don't
know, you have
interrupt
to,
me
there's a
because
lot.
don't be rude to me. Don't be
Rebecca,
rude to me.
there is a long agenda. We're not here to
Please
to be
don't be rude
lectured
to me.
on literature. If you have a question about this
Please,
process.
Please, don't be rude to me.
Okay, I
We
don't
don't
think we should
have-
continue with
this
this.
I would
Let
like
it take
it that we
everybody's
do
time.
not
No,
discuss
you know what?
this
You
as
have
a
to
downtown. And the second thing I would like is that when we talk about what's good for the community, I think it would be good if we heard from the community. It doesn't mean this is a bad application. It doesn't mean that there's something about it that shouldn't happen. What I'm saying to you is you don't honor process. And if you don't honor process, everything you get in the end is something people oppose, even after it's approved.
Thank you.
You need to honor process and the language by which the residents speak. So if I stand up and tell you we don't have a downtown, we don't have an uptown either.
Rebecca, okay?
Okay,
But
thank you.
It's,
No,
it's,
no, know what? Thank you,
No,
Rebecca.
no, I-
Thank you for your comments. And I don't think we can take
I
any
just want
comments
to
on
say,
this.
we've had plenty of process where we understand what people want. So it's not that we don't know.
I think
We're
we
going to
should
move forward.
move forward.
Would you like me to
Not at this time, because this is not a public comment.
state the resolution?
It's not a public comment moment. We can have public comment at the end, and this process was supposed to be done. And I want to tell this to everybody, and I think Peter and Dornell can concur. Legally, they don't need to come and present anything to public for public to hear what they're going to do in future. The only time that this has to be presented when they're coming to get their permit, and that is after they go to the Nassau County Planning Commission. So what we're doing now is to really prepare and give an insight to what's going to come. So to ask all these questions does nothing but scare other developers and other owners to come in and start building. I mean, there's no reason to attack somebody on their vocabulary that they used downtown or uptown versus a corridor. This is not the place for this. We can go ahead and disagree and say we don't want things like this, but to say that we don't use downtown or uptown is not the right thing to do at this time. I'm sorry, but I think we should go on because if it has something to do with this, you can mention, but this just a resolution.
Can you just clarify how many parking lots?
Good question. 10.
5 on the floor.
5 on each floor. Thank you.
Parking spots in a lot that is very.
If you want to make comments, you can come up because other people have to hear you also. And you can ask all those, you see, you have to realize, all those questions will be answered. He mentioned there are 10 units, 7 parkings, and they're asking for parking waivers. Those things will be all discussed when they come into the public for public meeting and public hearing. Go ahead
Could I
with the
just add
resolution,
one
please.
thing?
For
Could I just add one thing?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Just to respond to Rebecca, I certainly respect what she said about the air conditioning units. However, if you go to the building as it exists right now, it's only a one-story building, and I ask if you can see those air conditioning units from Middle Neck Road, you cannot. I have pictures that I just took 5 minutes, well, not 5 minutes, 5 minutes before I got here, because I was surprised that HSBC moved out as quickly as they did. So I took some pictures of that. So you cannot see the AC units as they exist in the building today. Now the elevation being now instead of, I don't know what it is right now, 14 feet, 15 feet, you're certainly not going to see it at 36 feet. Okay, that's the only comment I have.
Thank you.
In regards to that.
Is there a resolution on behalf of the board to seek lead agency status pursuant to SECRA, State Environmental Quality Review Act, and to assume site plan review jurisdiction pursuant to 575-225 of the Village Code, to assume architectural review pursuant to 575-182 of the Village Code, and to authorize the Village Council to send notice to interested agencies pursuant to SECRA, and also to authorize the Village Council to refer to NCPC pursuant to 239M of the General Municipal Law.
So moved.
At such time as all the documents are accepted.
Right, and I want to make sure that we are including the incentive part of this, because this is coming to us as not only as the architectural and site plan is also coming to us as an incentive, so I would like to make sure that this
Incentive.
stays on the record.
Yes, sir. So that is why the referral to the Planning Commission will be at such time as all the documents are assembled, which will include all the specifics of the request for incentive zoning adjustments.
Okay.
So
Moved by,
Moved by Trustee Sobel, seconded by Trustee Hope. All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Resolution passes.
We're looking to hear from you soon.
Thank you. And
All right.
we did bring some architectural.
We can bring that
exterior
next
time. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
I don't know if 733 Middle Neck Road is here to present?
Yeah.
Are they here? You are here.
Which one is this?
733 Middle Neck Road, yes? Yes.
No, 7:30.
Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor, it might be just helpful to renew something you said a moment ago, which is that no presentation is required by law at this time. All that we are seeking for this evening is exactly the same as on the last application, which is for you to authorize our office to make the 239M referral at such time as all the documents are fully assembled, and further to seek lead agency status. but and further to assume site plan jurisdiction and architectural jurisdiction. That could have been done without any presentation by the applicant whatsoever. I understand that as a courtesy, the first applicant made a conceptual presentation, and the second applicant is available to do so if the board requires it or requests it, but it is not a requirement of law. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Is 733 here to present?
No, I don't believe so.
I thought-
No?
Yes?
Somebody's here.
Yes,
They
there
are.
is somebody getting
Oh,
up.
they are here. Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. For the applicant, John Farrell, firm of Son Ward Cascignano. Our offices are at 333 Ovington Boulevard, Suite 601, Uniondale, New York. This property is located on the southeast corner of Middle Neck Road and North Road. It's approximately 15,124 square feet. It's presently improved with two-story mixed-use buildings. The plan is to demolish these buildings and build a new mixed-use building with retail apartments and retail on the first floor, some apartments on the first floor, and then apartments on the upper floors. There'll be a total of 25 units, and it's also proposed with below-grade parking to accommodate 28 parking spaces. This will dramatically improve this corner. These buildings are much, much older, under tenanted, and are in desperate need of improvement. Currently, there is no parking provided on this site. As I indicated earlier, the applicant is going to construct new parking below grade and add 28 spaces. I believe this proposal is in, compliance with the village's comprehensive plan and the Middle Neck Road Incentive Overlay code with respect to the proposed development. If the board has any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but I really think we're just requesting that the board declare lead agency status and take jurisdiction over the site plan review and architectural review of the project. And that the matter be referred to the Nassau County Planning Commission, and if necessary, the Nassau County Department of Public Works.
Right. So again, on this one, the setbacks are,
We're fully compliant. It is, I believe it's 10 foot from the front yard. Just give me 1 second.
From the curb?
From
no,
the curb.
it's not 10 foot from the curb. I think it looks about 20. from
We
the
have
curb.
20 from the curb,
It looks
10
much bigger
from
than
the
that.
property line. Currently, I believe it's much less than that. I believe it's a zero
Yeah, I was
at
gonna
this point.
Right.
But maybe we need to clarify that for the public. The rendering and the building that you're showing is not to scale for the property that you're proposing, is that correct?
No, this was, it's a conceptual plan. This is the style of building my client would like to build, but the building will be much, much smaller, and we will submit a revised rendering when we have the opportunity to prepare one. This was really just for informational purposes only.
I know, but if it's not to scale, it's not giving me much information.
Well, I understand that. The board at this point hasn't even taken jurisdiction over architectural review, so we weren't really prepared to present the full architectural package to the board this evening. It was our understanding that the purpose of this meeting was to get the project kick-started, get the referrals made, the necessary referrals made, and then present a full application to the board at a later meeting once those referrals have been made and those determinations are back from the county agencies, et cetera.
Are you adding any curb cuts to the Middle Neck Road?
We're actually getting rid of the curb cuts on Middle Neck Road. The curb cut is going to be on North Road at this point. So people are going to access the property from the rear and then go in the back and go down into the below-grade parking.
Okay.
When you say it's much, much smaller than what the rendering shows, where would it be smaller?
I think it's the height.
The height, it doesn't really give a good scale for this project. The width of the building will be slightly smaller. This is only going to be about 22,000 total square feet. for all the stories. So the footprint, I believe, is 8,500 square feet.
Per floor.
So it'll be 8,500 on 15,000. On a 15,000 square foot lot, so slightly, about 60% of the lot will be covered. But we will be improving the setbacks, and again, currently there is mixed-use development on the property. So we would really be staying in line with that mixed-use development. We would just be improving the architecture and creating more of a downtown feel.
And adding a floor.
Yes.
What's this downtown? Everyone
Yeah,
says
don't use that
downtown.
word downtown. What is it?
Sorry, I didn't mean to say downtown. Kind of slipped out. I guess it's a downtown feel, though. It's not a downtown.
Right. Okay. Well, I think we are going to get the final presentation
Yeah.
at a later time, and this is just for us to take the architectural, not this architectural, but some architectural, and but what we are sending to the county would include the height, the width, I don't think they care much about the architectural, and they care about the
Height,
curb
width.
cuts, height, setback, everything else I don't think they care much about. But those are the things when your application is complete, and it gets from
The county, for 239M purposes, would require the application that the village receives. And as such, we would suggest not sending it to the county until
We
there's
receive
a
it, of course.
complete and accurate
Yeah, I know.
application with
Right.
regards
This is
to
not-
incentives.
This is right.
And also with regards to proper
Right, so all
depiction.
these things are going to be obviously sent to the building department, at which time it will be reviewed, will be sent to the attorney, and the attorney will send it to Nassau County. After we get their recommendation, it comes back to us. We'll hear it again, you give us the presentation in public, and at that time, we'll hear the public to see what they have to say, and if there are any amendments to that, we'll make it at that time,
Sure, absolutely.
okay?
Do you know some basic facts before you send it?
Yeah, we're gonna get some.
Well-
How wide?
Well, these are the things that he's going to discuss, and again, all those things are going to be discussed again, but we have the heights, the
Height is
width.
zoning, everything is zoning compliant. We need a waiver for parking. We need a waiver for the lot size because we're under 20,000 square feet, and we need a slight increase in the density, the number of units that we're proposing.
And that's as the incentive zoning is going to fall within the zoning requirements, right?
Yes.
And for public purposes, we are not deciding on those issues tonight. It is merely to take architectural review and planning review onto this board, and to authorize us to send it to Nassau County. Correct?
Yes.
No, I'm just
As such-
asking if the public can know a few things before you send it on. I'm not
Well,
suggesting
if
that
it, right, so if
He
it's,
just said zoning compliant, so
What does that mean? How high is it?
42 feet.
42 feet. 42
zoning,
feet.
zoning in that area is 42 feet. The number of
Existing.
units is going to be depending on how many units they're going to ask as an incentive. Obviously, those things are going to be decided by the board if it's acceptable or not after
not
they
approving
present
them
it in,
tonight.
right. And because it's not getting approved tonight, those are the things that is going to be discussed and decided. As far as the incentives go, we need to find out what the incentives are, and those things are not decided. At this time, again, we're not deciding on the incentive, we're not deciding on the approval of anything except the fact that what they're sending to the Nassau County is going to be according to the zoning that already exists, and if it's going to be anything that is different, they have to go to the zoning board. What we are approving today is they're coming to us and say that we are accepting it when we see the site plan, the final site plan, and the architectural rendering. At that time, we can decide if we are approving it or not. So everything that is going to be sent to the Nassau County is going to be zone compliance.
With that being said, Mayor, is there a resolution to seek lead agency status pursuant to SECRA, assume architectural review, assume site plan review, authorize the village council to send notice of intent to seek lead agency status to interested agencies, and refer the application upon its completion to the Nassau County Planning Commission.
That's the resolution that, yeah.
Moved by trustee Sobel, seconded by trustee Namdar. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nope.
Hearing none, the resolution unanimously passes.
We will notify the public when this is going to go on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Have a good evening.
Have public comment. Not now.
Can we ask it at the end, public comment?
Do you want to just give a 2-second? Yeah. I'm going to have council's going to give you a brief. Yeah.
The village is divided into various zones, commercial and residential, and subsets within each of those. The village has also created what are known as incentive overlay zones, essentially meaning that in the same physical space as a residential zone or some other zone exists, the board has said that certain other things could happen if the applicant can provide the village a community benefit of sufficient value to the village. Then the village is authorized to grant what are known as zoning adjustments. The village board can incentivize a builder, which is why it's called an incentive overlay zone. The Board of Trustees may incentivize a builder to build something by providing that builder with zoning adjustments in exchange for the receipt of a community benefit. And the community benefit is not strictly defined. It's social, cultural, or other types of benefits to the village, something that the physical benefits or even cash in lieu that the Village Board of Trustees decides is of sufficient value that it justifies giving an adjustment to the zoning code and incentivize the builder to build. So that's the nature of an incentive zone. There are similarities to a variance by a zoning board of appeals, but they are distinct and separate in law.
Yes, that's what he said. It could be.
It can be where the board determines that a specific physical, cultural, or social benefit is not deemed appropriate. The board can say to the applicant that you can give us cash in lieu. And there is a formula in the code for determining the cash in lieu. If I wasn't clear, the applicant would pay the cash in lieu to the village, not the other way around. So the applicant provides the community benefit or the cash to the village. In exchange, the village provides to the applicant a zoning adjustment.
And obvious tax benefits from the increased value of the building.
Right. So what Deputy was saying, that there is going to be also tax benefit to the public if they go ahead and make what it was to what it's going to be, because the number of the units will change. We'll have a nicer looking building that is going to bring in more tax revenue.
A building that's assessed higher, they have a higher tax revenue for the village and the school district and the county every year.
Right. Okay. Can we move on to the new business?
Under new
please?
business, the first item is 778 Middle Neck Road. The applicant is seeking facade review.
That's very nice. Is there going to be a theme here or no? Thank you.
Down.
Do you have the current picture of what it looks like now? Do you have a, okay, go ahead, start.
Name and address, please.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Robert Bahari, architect. Robert Bahari, architect. We're here tonight to present an updated version of the previously approved facade. The last approval that the BOT approved on this facade was back in March of 2014. Is it better?
Yeah, it's being broadcast, so no one's gonna hear it.
Okay. Which had a more classical design style. I have actually the renderings of the previous approval here. If I can give it to the board. So
We have it.
You have it up here.
We all,
no, this is the
oh, the
previously
previous,
approved.
okay.
So now we're proposing a new upgrade to a more modern style. Okay. Will do. All right. Is it better? All right. So now we're upgrading to a more modern style. So you want to bring up the rendering, please? Okay. So this is how our proposal looks like. If you pan out, yeah. Make it bigger, yes, please, thank you. Okay, so our approach to this new design was to take a one-story, 20-foot high building and break it up to a more human scale. So we have a lower tier and an upper tier. I'm gonna explain the materials of these two tiers shortly. So that was our first approach. Second approach was to provide a focal point, which is what you see as the vertical fins on the midsection of the building, almost midsection. This is directly behind the hechal of this interior use, and we're creating a focal
Can you
point.
explain what that is for the public, please?
Which one? I'm sorry.
Hechal.
The hechal is an area where the Torah scrolls are stored during the use of the building. So in order to accentuate and emphasize the importance of that, we're providing on the outside of that a focal point. So now back to the lower tier. We're proposing the lower tier to be in composite aluminum panels. I have to put this back over here so I can present this. Composite aluminum panels, and we're proposing two shades of the same color to give it that depth. And every 6 feet of that is a vertical glazing, if you will, that continues up all the way to through the second upper tier of this proposal. On the upper tier, we're proposing a translucent glazing, translucent glass. By translucent, I mean light will be coming in, but you will not be able to see out or inside. It's only used for to bring light in for the better part of the day. The focal point, as I mentioned earlier, is we're proposing a extruded aluminum tubes. If you see, this looks like a piece of wood, but it's actually extruded aluminum. So we're taking that. It's going up vertically throughout the height of the building and a little bit more past the height of the parapet. So this will be wrapped in a non-PVC film, which is lightweight, non-combustible, water-resistant, quick and cost-efficient installation. in the middle of this vertical focal point, we're proposing a custom laser cut metal screen in the pattern that we're suggesting. And we're gonna provide a LED lighting on the bottom to whitewash that wall in the nighttime for additional accent. On the side and rear, if you could just move the rendering over a little bit to show the side of this rendering. Yes, thank you. The side and the rear, we're proposing a stucco wall. And the color of the stucco will be in what's called a moonstone color, not to compete with the front, but not to take away from it either. It's a little bit of a subdued color. But instead of having a blank stucco wall, we're proposing scoring patterns to emphasize the horizontal expression from the front all the way through the side and the back. The exterior sconce light fixtures on the front facade, immediately adjacent to the entrance, is a vertical sconce light fixture, as shown on the rendering. The entrance will be canopy glass and metal frame, with the steel framing on the canopy itself and the metal and the glass to cover. And finally, the walkway lighting in the front will be a bollard integrated with lighting to light up that front walkway area, and the bollards for additional security. So if there's any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
What is the gray material above the bronze material?
The gray material,
In other
which
words,
one,
the
sorry?
upper half of the, is that stucco?
No, this is,
Yeah.
Steel, metal.
no,
That's
this
fine.
is glass.
No, glass.
That's glass, that's all translucent glass.
But on the side, it's stucco.
On the
Is
side,
that-
it's
On the
stucco.
side and rear will be stucco, correct.
Okay. Also, you're missing a bollard directly in front of the doors, just on the rendering. Just, no, I'm asking for
I
a
don't know
reason.
if it's
'cause
missing, but it's gonna be in the way. It's for people to come in and out.
I'm
but
asking
if
for security purposes, that's all.
we could
does make
provide
sense.
that would not be a problem.
Also, are you, no, the curb cut could be for pedestrians, but there should still be a bollard for security purposes. Do you propose to have any writing or identification on the building other than the address?
At this time, no, but if we do, and if we're required to present it to the board, we will do so. At this time,
So
we
there's
didn't
not
know
going to be a name or anything like that on the,
At this time, no.
at this
But
time?
there
no.
could be in the future, and if we do, and if we have to come before the board to present that, we'll gladly do so.
Question, is this going to be a synagogue?
Yes, sir.
Is there a reason why you changed from this original design?
The client essentially expressed a desire to more upgrade and updated modern look. That was a more classical style, and also I believe it's in keeping with the village's protocol to modernize Middle Neck Road.
No, we don't have any protocols to have buildings look like this.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody have any specific?
No,
questions
just
or
trying to
questions?
look at the lighting. Is there going to be any lighting right in that focal point that you mentioned?
Yeah, as I mentioned, we're providing LED lighting on the bottom of it to whitewash that whole vertical piece at nighttime.
Just
Gives it- give it that-
just the wood,
Just the vertical
The center,
area, yes.
the center.
not the
correct?
center, the,
The whole, the center and the fins as well.
yes.
Oh, the center and the fence.
Yeah.
It's interesting. All right.
have no questions.
Mayor, is there a resolution to approve the facade as proposed with an additional bollard to be centered in front of the doors after consideration of Article 30 of Chapter 575 of the Village Code?
I would just alter that to say, the bollard doesn't have to be in front of the doors. They would just, I would not request that the bollard necessarily be in front of the doors, rather than that they be spaced appropriately for security
For
purposes.
cars not to be able to get in.
Right, for a car not to be able to mount the sidewalk into. You know, obviously you have to have a wheelchair access, so that's why I'm saying not directly in front of the door, but bollards appropriately spaced, so, okay?
Is there a resolution to approve the facade as proposed with appropriately spaced bollards as approved by the building department? Moved by trustee Hope, seconded by trustee Sobel. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution passes.
Thank you.
Is it?
Mr. Black, Mr. Bahari. Mr. Black.
You could ask a question. Okay, come up.
Very simple question. Elliot Rosenzweig, 30 Nirvana Avenue, Great Neck. The sanctuary is intended to seat how many people?
That's already been decided a long time
So
ago.
I-
It's a 2014 application.
So it's going to keep it a secret from me?
It's not a secret. Everything's a public record, so.
So-
Bahari, do you know how many people it's supposed to seat? This is just a facade approval.
Right, so it was, all this was approved in 2014. which is-
Before most of this board was sitting here. Oh, boy.
Keep going, Karen. Keep going. Keep going. That's the cellar. Go to the first floor.
We have 85
You can swipe the screen.
fixed seats
No, you
in the
can't.
front portion of the synagogue, and 46 movable seats in the rear portion of the synagogue.
Thank you. Mhm.
Oh, this is right by 7-Eleven. The building that
next
is
to
being
7-Eleven.
built on south of 7-Eleven. It's already, I
between-
believe, under construction for a while.
Well, it's between Shiraz, that
No.
part, it's next to.
The building.
Right, it's next to Shiraz, right.
It's
Between the courtyard and 7-Eleven.
Right.
That was all approved and decided. what is it,
Before
5
any
years
of us
ago.
came, right. Okay.
This is just, again, this is just facade.
Second item, we segue into 813 Middle Neck Road.
I don't know.
Which one is this? No, this has been approved a long time ago, we're just doing the facade. They're already existing.
What are we doing now, 813?
Do you have the before also?
Yes.
Can we show the before and after, please?
I have a hard copy of this.
A hard copy again?
This is how it looks existing.
Jeez, man, you can't get a better picture.
Looks like a plumbing supply. Looks like a plumbing supply. No.
Yeah. Do you want
Did
to
you
take
change
it?
the name also? Yeah.
This is such a nice color.
Put it up on the easel if you can. We have a clip.
So this is the revised version again.
Always clips. Okay.
Different color would be nice.
This is revised.
No, I know that. No, I recognize that. I'm saying,
This.
Can you help with that?
It's gonna become this.
no, I know which building it is. I
But-
just don't like the color.
There you go.
Because it's, yeah, it looks like, it's just in a warehouse.
Can I borrow them? Yeah, we have a big one. I don't know if that's bigger.
Is there a different color they could use? Little light, yeah. Too old, huh? We don't know what's on the staircase. Is this a window?
Okay. This is another facade. Okay. This is another facade review application for 813 Middle Neck Road. So as you can see, the current building is on the corner of Middle Neck Road and Ellard Road. And it's currently clad in white brick on the Middle Neck Road side and painted CMU on the Ellard Road side. So on this application, we're proposing a new stucco facade, as you can see on the rendering. This stucco will be in two different two different shades of the same color. There's going to be a darker shade, which will predominantly be applied on the bulk of the wall, and it's going to be a lighter shade on the trimming of the front entrance and the windows. The name of the lighter shade is what's called ivory, and the name of the darker shade is going to be called warm sand. And the design of the entranceway is as you see on the pictured rendering. Now, the facade will only be on the Middle Neck Road side only. As of now, we're not proposing to provide stucco on the Ellard Road side. We're proposing to leave it as is. I distributed the revised rendering to the board. And the only change that we're requesting at this time from this rendering to the rendering that the board has is the sconces, the exterior lighting sconces on either side of the entrance, which will provide ambient lighting for the sidewalk in the front. And we're providing and proposing floodlighting on the top corners of the building to provide more lighting for the security of the pedestrians on Middle Neck Road and Ellard Road. and that's essentially what we're
Mr.
proposing.
Bahari, you have a curb cut onto Middle Neck Road right there. There's no crosswalk there, is there?
I'm not sure, but I believe there's a crosswalk.
There's a crosswalk across Ellard, but there's no crosswalk across Middle Neck Road, so I guess you probably...
Let's look at the pictures.
I'm looking at it online,
Okay.
here.
Correct, that's correct.
Okay.
I've been told that's correct. Yes,
So,
that's how we have it on the existing pictures.
So what's missing up there that people can't see are that there are floodlights, okay. I'm just describing that there are floodlights in the corners and sconces on the sides of the door.
Correct.
and do the floodlights only illuminate the sidewalk?
The floodlights, yes, they're for the lighting for the sidewalk along Middle Neck Road and Ellard Road.
Is there any way you could have a greater contrast between that trim and the?
Of
is it-
course, there is.
I mean, it just looks very blah, like it looks like one color really from a distance. I think if there were a greater contrast, either,
I would agree with Trustee Mendelson.
Yeah, we saw it.
Yeah, we have it there.
Okay, so we can leave the lighter stucco color and provide a darker, a different darker color for the stucco.
well, even
Lighter.
like a pinker or, like a stone, I don't know. Other suggestions are welcome. It doesn't have to be just me. What do
Darker
you-
is good.
Darker?
Darker.
I mean, I don't know that I would want it to be like
Can I see the
Battleship
samples?
Gray, but something that blends.
As an architect, do you think that we should go lighter on this, or
I think that's pretty light
lighter on
already.
this or darker on this?
I think that's pretty light already.
Yeah, so you have to go darker.
If you want to have a more of a contrast, I believe you should go darker on the darker side.
Because then the darker is going to really be more of the building that is going to be darker. So that's something that, obviously, hopefully if you have the floodlights, it's not going to look as dark, at least at night.
I think there's pretty much of a contrast right now
It
with the
doesn't look-
existing.
You know what?
I mean-
Over,
Oh,
over here may be a contrast, and when you make it bigger, it's probably
Right,
more of a contrast.
more of a
Here,
contrast.
it doesn't look as much.
The rendering doesn't show that's why we have the actual samples for you to see firsthand.
Yeah,
That's a more of a better way of telling.
If
of
it's
the
not
actual
going to
colours.
be an exorbitant amount of cost to the builder, what do you think about the 3 windows that are? I mean, I don't know if you need to have a certain number of windows. Is it possible to combine those windows and have one larger window on each side instead of having 3 windows and 3 windows? Have a larger window with some kind of a no.
I believe the windows the way they are is pretty to scale. If we make one big blob of window, it's going to be more
It's not,
It breaks it
overwhelming.
up.
he's not saying one big blob, he's saying that to have larger, more picture windows in their place.
Or
two
make the
picture windows.
existing windows larger.
Make the existing windows into
make the 3 into 1.
Make
one
it
picture
3
window.
into 1.
or something
That's
like
what I'm
that.
saying. If we make 3 into 1, I believe it's going to take away from the scale and overwhelm and the facade and maybe even compete with the front entry. What do you think, Rabbi? Oh, they're saying we could make it bigger. Existing to be bigger.
Up higher.
There's
Yeah.
also no break on the sidewalk.
Yeah, you see, I think what we're discussing is how we can break it up a little bit more, especially on the second tier. When you go on the second tier, it just.
And the Ellard side has no break, aside from the windows.
Is there any way that maybe we can put something even above the arch of the door to just fill that place up? It just looks I'm not saying I mean, it's 100% different from this to that. But is there anything that we can do to make that place a little bit, break it up a little bit, dress it up a little bit more?
What we can do is bring the arch, the stucco arch, raise it higher to the level of the windows.
Okay,
That'll
and
all
then,
be-
yeah, and then you're going to bring up the door.
Then we'll fill up the difference between the door and the arch with other motif or
Something inside. I
Right.
think that definitely is going to make it. Yeah.
And what's the depth of the building on Ellard?
Sorry.
The depth of the building on Ellard?
The setback.
No, not the setback. The,
The depth. Well, the building depth is about I would say 80 feet. I don't have the drawings in front of me.
I mean, as long as you're raising the arch in your designs, I wouldn't mind seeing some kind of a design break on the Ellard side. It's just a very long, solid, it's not much different than what you have now, with the exception that it's nicer material. So, it's going from a warehouse, maybe even a stucco design element to help break up that long wall. Does anybody, I mean, I'm just one person, I don't know if anybody else agrees or
I
not.
hear. I think that we're just looking to see if we can break it up a little bit. What?
Others of us have other ideas about the
You
design.
can, it's okay. So if you have something about
Well,
just,
I mean, I haven't given it too much thought before. We could, for instance, echo the curve of the center entrance with some curvature on the windows. This building is nondescript, to say the least. Okay, this is very left, and you might think of some more interesting window shape. And also, frankly, I'd love to see much more of the setback. I think that every house.
They're not building the building, it's an existing building. It's just a facade.
no, it's this. They're just.
It's an
twisting it
existing
up.
building. Sorry.
The windows are there already.
Can they put an overhead? Can they put a bigger overhead?
Yeah, that would break it up. An overhang for the
That's
door
interesting.
entrance.
What essentially what we're doing is we're as you can see the existing building is very bland and we're beautifying it to this level. We're willing to bring up the front to to raise the arch to the top of the windows, to align it to the top of the windows, and maybe put a stucco trim around the windows on the Ellard side to accentuate those windows.
Okay.
Is that okay?
I think anything to just break up the Ellard side a little bit. I think to raise this up to the level of the other windows makes it a lot nicer. Breaks it up definitely. You're going to lose that empty spot, and then I think as Bart said, to have something on the Ellard side is going to make that a lot nicer. I mean, listen, to go. I
Just a
commend.
visual- just a visual
I just want to
break.
say I
Yeah.
commend you for really taking this. You didn't have to, and I know that it's going to increase the cost significantly to. But to go from what is currently there to do this is a huge improvement to the to that part of the village, and I really wanted to commend you again. I think it's great, and I hope more people come forward with enhancing the facade. But if now that we're doing it, if we can just do a little bit more and give it a little bit a bigger oomph, I think it's everyone's going to appreciate it.
Okay.
All right. Are we putting any lights on the Ellard side?
Yes, we have also floodlights on the Ellard side as well.
They're in
You have the
comments here.
rendering.
Yeah, there you go.
So, oh, these are the new ones. Oh, fine. Okay. What is that? I think they should keep the color. I think they should.
What about a sandy?
On which one?
On the back, like,
We don't have to, right?
you think so? Like a beige-ish?
Can we approve it subject to, approve it subject to the changes that?
I don't have a comment on that.
No, he's gotta come back, yeah. Right. Okay.
I would
They have
defer
to come
that.
back, yeah.
What?
We have to come back with the rendering.
Right. So, but I think just after you can. I don't think you guys want to start tomorrow. Are you starting tomorrow?
Actually, we have just to give you some background, the building was dedicated and there's a dedication ceremony on September 8th, so we're trying to get that finished before that time. And the beautification of the outside is for that reason. So we are totally willing to take all of your comments and do what you've suggested here. But we actually do have the contractor ready to start as soon as the board gives its approval.
Are you going to be able to at least send the rendering to the board?
To the
Sure.
building department?
To the
Absolutely.
building department, and then we'll take a look.
You know, I'd like advice of counsel.
Yeah?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Thanks. We'll be back very short. Okay, please. Now you finally got to use that.
Huh? I know. I've never used it.
I don't think so.
Oh, yeah.
Sit down, please.
Back in order, please. So I would like to ask the architects and the members if you can please provide us with the new design as soon as possible, because I don't know when you're going to start. I'm assuming next week you're going to begin the construction.
Submit it to the building
So-
superintendent.
Right, so submit it to the superintendent, and based on his approval, we're going to say that you can go ahead and, with the, not the construction, but with the facade, right.
Okay.
As such,
Wait, we're not done yet, let him,
is there a
thank you.
Is there a resolution pursuant to Article 30 of Chapter 575 of the Village Code, facade review, after consideration of the review criteria contained in 575-273, to approve the facade, subject to the further approval of the building department? Motion by Trustee Hope, seconded by Trustee Namdar. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oh, wait, Len?
Mayor, we still have one other item, and that is the building permit has expired. So, I had come up with a number of 7,500, and it's based on 1,500 for the facade and a quarter of the original permit fee, which was 11,000. So 7,500.
This building, the
permit expired.
The permit for what? For the,
Building permit expired.
okay, and do they have anything left to do, or no?
They've got it, they're at 90%, but,
W-
you know,
We're actually at about 99. We're pretty much all done. There's really nothing left. We have scheduled for the fire marshal to just come and approve it, but all the construction that was supposed to take place based on the prior permit is done. It's 99.9% done. There's one sink that they delivered the wrong size, and they're just bringing the right size now. That's all that is left. There's really nothing else. So we're done with what the permit was issued for is completely done.
So can we amend that number, or based on?
Drop it down to 3,000,
15 for the facade and 15 for the permit?
Subject to the building superintendent confirming that the building is essentially complete. Is that okay?
If I may ask, the 1,500 for the new facade, that the old permit is already pretty much done, and that we paid like $27,000 for that. $27,000 has already been paid for the work that we have done. So
Right.
that is done. All we're doing now is just the facade. So for that, I believe that would be
I
1,500.
know, but we still need to renew the building permit to close it out.
Yeah, I hear you, but if it's how many percent left? Let's say 1% left. 1% of that.
Yeah, we're
Fine.
splitting
Yeah, I
hairs
think
here.
just make it
Okay.
2,500.
2,500. That would be fine. Thank you.
25. Sold for 25. All right.
2,500.
All right. We all okay with that?
Extension of the building permit
So
and the
it's
facade.
$1,000 for extension of the building permit, so they can close it,
And
and then
1,500.
1,500 for the facade.
And again, that's subject to the building superintendent confirming the completion of the original permit.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Florence, what is this? Oh, pots, okay. All right.
Item number C is a permit application for the placement of a temporary storage unit, otherwise known as a pod, at 2 Forest Lane. This is due to a recent flooded basement, and the scheduled date for placement of the pod is, well, it's passed, July 26th through August 26th.
Did they place the pot there yet, or no?
I had a request. They went on vacation, they came back, their basement was flooded. They considered it crucial to get all their items out as soon as possible. I gave them permission to put the pod on the property, subject to getting approval.
So, do they have it on or not yet?
They do have it on.
Okay.
Give me those dates again, Karen.
What's that?
The dates.
July 26th through August 26th.
By the way, this is Ron approvals.
Right, it doesn't matter who it is, but yes, I personally believe that it's, I mean, if it's an emergency and they need to do that to save the property, I don't have an issue with it at all.
Okay,
Is there a
I'll move it.
resolution to approve the placement of a temporary storage unit pursuant to Article 22 of Chapter 575?
Yeah, could I just ask one question before we move ahead? Where is the pod placed?
It's placed in the backyard. It has an extended driveway.
Okay.
Oh, so it's on the driveway, not on the grass?
In the rear
Yes,
part.
I'll
And
move the resolution.
Yeah, that's fine.
Moved by Trustee Sobel, seconded by Trustee Hope. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution passes.
Item D is the staff seeking the board approval to authorize 3 attendees to go to NICOM Fall Training School for a total of $1,551 per attendee. That includes hotel and the program from September 16th to the 20th. It's in Saratoga.
Oh, Saratoga's a good one. Okay. It's not fun.
The staff has gone in the past. We didn't go last year. It
Not
conflicted
staff,
with
the trustees.
Trustees.
No.
Trustees have gone and a couple of staff
Yep.
members have gone.
2 staff members and 1 trustee.
Okay. So this is to approve 3 total
Yes.
attendees.
Is there a resolution to approve the expenditure of up to $5,000 to accommodate the 3 staff attending the NICOM Fall Training School?
Board members, you mean?
Moved by Trustee.
No, board
This is
members.
for the staff. This one is for
It's
the
not
staff.
for, it's for
It's a
3
combination.
members
So
of
it's
the
the
village.
village.
Oh,
Moved by Trustee Hope, seconded by Trustee Sobel. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, resolution passes.
Item E is a an item to remove, it is to remove a portion of a sidewalk at 1 Willys Lane as a result of a notice of violation. And it is a sidewalk that goes nowhere. You can see that. It dead ends at Berkshire.
No,
No, it doesn't.
no, the sidewalk doesn't go all the way. I think it ends at the one Willys property behind.
You see that?
So this is Willys Lane. So it's that, I think, right? Isn't it?
Who's the application by?
By 1 Willys Lane.
Right, so it's their side.
Yeah.
This is 1 Willys?
It's what?
Yeah, it's-
One
it's
Willys is
not
the
Willys.
applicant, it's
It's
the
the
co-op
when you
building.
go up from
The
Middlesex.
superintendent of Public Works has approved this,
Has what?
has approved it.
Yeah.
Louise approved it.
Louise said that it's okay. I just don't
I know.
I want to see.
No, it doesn't go anywhere.
What's that? Wait, are we talking
But I
about
would
this?
prefer, no,
No,
no, no,
it's
no.
not.
Sorry.
See, you wanna.
This is,
That's Middlesex.
no, this is the wrong building.
That's one Willys.
No, pick,
One Willys Lane.
one second. It's behind, it's the back of one Willys Lane. It's
Oh,
on Piccadilly.
okay.
Mhm.
So the sidewalk in question is actually on Piccadilly,
Oh, that's right. So that's the one. you want to
heading
talk about.
east from Middle Neck Road. The sidewalk extends to the rear of the property,
So it's
which is an
Willys,
apartment
but
building,
it's
one
the
Willys
back of
Lane.
the
It's
one
the back
Willys.
of one Willys.
Mhm.
Apparently, there used to be a structure there which the sidewalk serviced. That building disappeared before the present building at one Willys, which was decades and decades ago. So they're proposing to take out the sidewalk, which is probably in a dangerous condition and leading to nowhere at this point. So that's what's before us right now.
So they want to remove the sidewalk.
They want to take out
Remove
what's
it.
there and,
Put grass, so it's not
and-
dilapidated,
and this,
broken.
and
It's not a
the
tripping
superintendent
hazard.
of public works has recommended this as well.
As such, is there a resolution to remove the sidewalk adjacent to 1 Willys Lane and to replace said sidewalk with grass? Authorizing,
Oh, there's someone. in
I
the
don't think you
box.
live right there, but you can come up. I don't think you do.
Where do you live?
Hi, I live in that neighborhood and I drive
What's
down that
name
street.
and address?
My name is Robin Bernstein Silver,
Address?
60 Colgate Road.
Is that next to it? No.
What?
You're
I
not
live in that neighborhood. I drive
all
down that
live in
street
the neighborhood.
multiple times.
So you live in
I
the
drive
village.
down. Please don't interrupt me. Let me just say a few sentences. Thank you. Show some respect, please. I drive down that street many times
Hey,
during.
you know,
Respect, R-E-S-P-E-C-T.
Hey,
It's
Rob-
not a curse word, everybody.
Robin,
Not
Rob-
a curse word.
Robin, can you please just
Robin.
address
Oh my
the board,
God.
okay?
Please be quiet.
Guys.
I drive down that street multiple times a day,
Listen,
morning, noon, and
Okay,
night.
listen, we need to.
And there's a sidewalk
Okay,
there.
stop
I've
for 1
taken it
second.
many times. If you get rid of the sidewalk, people will have to be forced to walk in the street, right? If you get rid of a sidewalk, people will be forced to walk in the road. There's a synagogue on that corner. There are children playing. There are old people. That is one of the most dangerous corners and intersections in this whole town. I've seen many accidents there. Piccadilly and Middle Neck Road and Old Mill Road is on the west side of the intersection. It's a very dangerous intersection. Please leave the sidewalk there. It only goes 1 block, or the
Robin,
sidewalk,
Robin.
but it's very important that it's there
Okay,
for
Let me
the
ask you,
safety.
what happens after they go to the end of that sidewalk?
They stay on the grass. There's grass. It'd be nice to extend the sidewalk, but I've walked on it many times with my children in strollers because I refuse
I
to walk
agree
in the
with
road.
you.
You stay on the grass or you cross the street at a safe area, not in the middle of the intersection. You go to, what is the first road, Radnor or Berkshire? And you cross over
right.
there.
I don't think it goes that far in, and I do like to say that I agree with you. I don't agree with you that you live right there, but I do agree with you.
I live a few blocks away. I
so-
drive through there
Right,
all day
okay,
long.
We all do. We
No,
all
no.
live few blocks away from each
We
other.
all drive down there. Robin,
Everybody does not drive down
Okay,
Piccadilly. What
okay.
are you talking about?
Okay, first of all, we're assuming
Everybody
that
in this room does not drive 5 times a day
Robin.
down Piccadilly
We're totally
from
off the
east to
subject.
west. No, that's exactly
No,
what
no.
I'm responding to what you just said.
Okay.
Robin,
It's irrelevant what you said anyway.
I think we all agree that.
Safety first.
We would all love to see a sidewalk extending the entire length of Piccadilly Road.
Yes.
This particular sidewalk is in terrible disrepair.
Right.
It only extends to the very small portion that was behind 1 Willys Lane, okay? It's on Piccadilly.
From
Don't
the
get
corner.
confused, okay? It's on Piccadilly.
From the corner.
From the corner, we're not removing the sidewalk. The sidewalk is only the broken portion that extends beyond the existing synagogue that's there. That belongs to 1 Willys Lane. That sidewalk is in disrepair. It's not a very long sidewalk.
It should be repaired.
It goes to nowhere. It ends at the grass. It would make no difference. To remove that sidewalk would be a safer situation than to leave it in its present condition. And the applicant is asking that they remove it totally because you have to walk on the grass anyway to avoid walking in the street in that location.
In the ice and the snow, at least you have a sidewalk part of the way. Then you have to walk on the grass
It's
the
not
rest
very-
of the
Can you
way.
pull up on Google Maps the corner of
It should
Piccadilly
be
and Middle
repaired.
Neck? We would love, again, okay? Nassau County owns most of that stretch going up to Berkshire, okay? The-
Piccadilly?
Yes, okay? The portion that the sidewalk is on is only behind 1 Willys, and it's not the entire size of the building. It's a small little piece
Right,
that remains.
right.
The sidewalk goes nowhere. It's in disrepair, okay? It does not go anywhere. To leave it as new grass and to newly pave it with grass, not pave it, but to plant it with grass, would be a safer situation than you have now. That's all the applicant is asking. It's the apartment building that wants to remove the sidewalk that's in disrepair and going to nowhere. We
Right,
can
but
make
in
them
the winter, it will not get shoveled. Right now, it's shoveled, and it's a safe place to walk, to get away from that dangerous intersection.
I agree with you. I
And
would
then
love
you-
to see the sidewalk extend all the way down to Berkshire. It's not our properties,
This
of
is not
course.
the sidewalk we're talking about.
This is the
Yeah, it is the
sidewalk
sidewalk
it's
after-
on Piccadilly.
Piccadilly.
After the temple.
Yeah, but
After,
that's not one
Right.
Willys. Willys is on the corner
No,
of
no,
Willys.
but this is
it
the back of.
extends
at the
back.
back of one, could you pull up Google Maps?
There are cars parked on both sides of the street, which
We're
we
gonna show
should
you. You're
stop
correct.
that. There should be cars parked on either the north or the south side of the road on Piccadilly. It's so dangerous with cars parked on both
So
sides.
nobody's disagreeing with you about the fact that
Yeah.
there might be a parking
It's
situation.
very dangerous
and
for
that there's a no-
pedestrians.
and
You know
we
what?
know that.
Maybe on that note, I think we may be able. Let's do this. For now, I would ask for the applicant not to be given any summons until maybe we can discuss with Nassau County to see if they can at least extend the road
To
on their
Berkshire.
property, which belongs to them, and no one. It's not on anybody else's property.
Can Nassau County pay
We-
for the
we-
sidewalk
well,
like
we
they
could-
do in
well,
every other town?
Wait. So Nassau County has to work on their property. We cannot work on their property. So if we can ask,
No, not the picture, not
Or the
sidewalk,
town of
just
North
the Google
Hempstead?
map.
it's Nassau County. If Nassau
Okay.
County can put that sidewalk,
Google map.
I can send an email to the legislator and see if they're willing to take that on. I do agree with you that
the
we
address?
rather have sidewalks as much as we can, but if the sidewalk is in state of disrepair and it doesn't go anywhere, it's except about maybe 20 feet, that's not
Away,
going.
but it leads people away from that intersection.
But
There's
you-
also a bus stop on that intersection.
But you already have sidewalks until, I don't know how many feet the sidewalk goes after the temple. Does the sidewalk, what is it? 200-300 feet from the intersection?
No.
If we
Yeah?
can get the town of North Hempstead to build the sidewalks,
It's
that
not-
would be,
it's the
and
Na-
not
it's
be
Nassau County.
incorporated.
It's the county, it's not the town.
Here.
Right, in Manhasset Hills, New Hyde Park, the town of North Hempstead is responsible for all the sidewalks, and they do a great job. Nassau County can probably call the town of North Hempstead and ask them
Okay,
to
so-
fix the sidewalk if the,
okay?
if the tenant won't do it.
This is,
I know it. Right.
we know, this is,
Where's the north, south, east,
this
west?
is 1 Willys Lane, okay? The back of it ends up on Piccadilly.
Right.
This small little piece is the back of 1 Willys Lane. That's where the sidewalk is.
And it
it's
starts here.
No,
right?
no, the sidewalk, we're not taking out this sidewalk, okay? It's just a broken piece of sidewalk that exists right here. All of this is Nassau County land, all the way going up to Berkshire, okay? It's just this little piece
Right.
of
If they
broken
can
sidewalk.
fix it, that would be
Well,
great.
we would have them fix it, okay?
The
If Nassau
one
County
Willys,
would
the
extend
tenant,
it. It would
the
only
Willys?
it would only make sense if the county were willing to put a sidewalk in the rest of the way, okay?
Who's
It's not fair to-
responsible? The tenant at Willys Lane?
I mean, I don't think it's.
We're talking about what, $800 or $1,000?
I don't know.
It's about $125 a square, and it's really not a lot to ask
you know
them
what?
to fix
This
their
is-
sidewalk.
Again, I mean, if the. Okay, come forward.
Thank you.
Do you really live there, or you live around the neighborhood?
Payam Kahan, 5 Piccadilly Road, right
Oh.
across the street from this.
That's real.
Oh,
I speak pretty loudly, but okay.
it's okay. No.
I actually, my kids use that sidewalk, and it's I don't. It's actually necessary. I believe it's necessary, just because the way that people, either they're coming from Middle Neck Road, there's a big throng of people usually coming that way, and they use that sidewalk. It could be 20 feet, but they're still using it. And the lady was right. In the winter, it gets icy. It gets really unsafe on the street. Do we really want people walking on the street, or we want people walking on the sidewalks? I think it's a bad idea to remove that sidewalk. Even that 20 feet helps. My kids use it to get home. And if you could repair it, that'd be great. If you could extend it all the way, it's even better, even safer. But even that 20 feet helps. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I think I would like to say that if we can ask Nassau County to see if they're willing to extend that to the next
To Berkshire.
to Berkshire, that would definitely make everybody happier. So on that note, I think I would suggest not to grant them the getting the destruction of the parking, the sidewalk. Wait until we discuss with Nassau County. Now, from what I'm hearing, people would like to maintain whatever is that sidewalk, even if it's 20 feet, just maintain it. And I think we probably should ask them to
No,
let's
it-
talk to
it would
Nassau
have to be-
County.
It would have to
and
be
then-
replaced in that case.
What?
It would have to be replaced in that instance.
Right, okay. So whatever it takes to fix that area if they need to. Again, we're talking about 20 feet.
Yeah, we're gonna,
What is it? Okay, fine. So they listen, they're big boys.
No, but-
One Willys Lane is not a small place.
maybe we should allow them to take it out with the proviso that we may require them to replace it.
Well, they have to fix it so it's walkable and safe.
If they take it out, then they'll be.
Is the board assuming the ownership of the sidewalk is currently vested in the tenant, One Willys?
Well,
Yes,
all the
one more.
sidewalks
Or are they simply responsible for its maintenance under the village ordinance?
I think it's under the village ordinance. It's not-
Typic-
it's maybe
typically,
village land, yeah.
typically, and I have not researched this particular parcel, but typically a sidewalk is deemed part of the roadway right-of-way, and the owner of the premises adjacent to the sidewalk is charged with its maintenance and for its repair. So if the board may direct that the owner of the premises repair and maintain the sidewalk, that's one option the board has. The board could choose to simply remove it from its agenda and have the superintendent of public works report back in more detail what your options are. That's another option for the board to consider. You could grant or deny the application. May I offer the possible suggestion that you may want to have more information on this particular sidewalk strip before you make your determination, in which case what you would do is simply remove it from your agenda at the present time and ask the superintendent of public works to report back.
Okay, they're not here, we can do that, but I don't think we should tell them to rip it off. Yeah, okay.
Until you have more facts.
Right.
Okay. All right, so I think we would like to see, personally, I like to see all the streets have sidewalks. It's not that simple to do, because when they built the village, they didn't do that with all the streets. But if we can extend that all the way, even from what I'm hearing, even that 20 feet helps. So we try to see, get the facts, see what other reasons they may be, and then we'll report back to the public. All right, thank you.
I think it's more than 20 feet, too.
23 feet?
No, I think it might be like 80 feet.
Yeah, because it's
This is five.
covers more than just walls.
This is 500 feet from Berkshire to the shore. So if you cut it in half, that's 250. It could be.
Maybe it's not the whole shore.
No, it could be 80 feet.
80 feet?
It could be 80 feet, yeah.
That's significant. Okay.
Item F is a correction to the tax roll. The resident of 39 Cary Road was granted a veterans exemption, 25% veterans exemption, and it was not reflected on the tax bill, so we're asking the board to approve a $568.23 adjustment.
$568.23 adjustment.
Adjustment.
Right.
Was this the Cold War exemption?
Pardon me?
Was this the Cold
No,
War?
regular
just
exemption,
regular.
yeah.
Is the person here?
No.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
That's, I'll move it.
Is there a resolution to?
Yes, I'll move.
I second.
By trustee Sobel, seconded by trustee Namdar. All in favor?
Aye.
Any,
Aye.
any opposed?
No.
Hearing none, the resolution passes.
Thank you. Do you want to go to, before we go to 429 Middle Neck Road, would you like to jump to the abstract first? Do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can just do that. Why do you want
You want it? I don't know.
Do that at the
No.
end. Let people leave.
Okay.
They don't need to. You want to do that, sir?
Item G is 429 Middle Neck Road. It's an application to grant or reaffirm certain approvals, including a special use permit to maintain a religious purpose use and the construction of a second-story religious dwelling unit, associated building area adjustment, front yard adjustment, side yard adjustment, and rear yard adjustment pursuant to the Middle Neck Road Incentive Overlay District. Parking
Peter?
waiver, facade review, site plan review, and architectural review.
Mayor, perhaps a little background on this will be of help.
Yes.
This is a little bit of a technical snarl, but back in 2010, the applicant had asked for and was granted various approvals from both the Zoning Board of Appeals and from this Board of Trustees. Specifically, the applicant was approved for a conditional use permit for religious use of the premises, subject to various conditions. It was approved by the VZA for a parking variance, and this Board of Trustees approved a site plan for a site plan that showed certain setbacks that needed either variances or incentive zoning adjustments. Recently, during the process of obtaining a building permit and beginning construction, it was noted that the variances or adjustments had never been separately approved, although the Board of Trustee approved site plan had shown the needed adjustments. So at this time, the applicant is seeking those adjustments under the incentive zone option, and community benefit is going to be proffered, I understand, by the applicant this evening. And he is asking that those approvals shown on the site plan be granted for the sake of completeness, and because the conditional permit jurisdiction for religious use in the E-zone has since been transferred in 2015 from the Zoning Board of Appeals to the Board of Trustees, the proposed resolution would do a number of things. It would re-grant the conditional use for religious use at those premises. It would provide a parking authorization for the 2 parking stalls that was previously granted under a variance. It would provide for the approval of the adjustments that were shown on the site plan, specifically 845 square feet or 13% of the building lot area, 5 feet from the property line and 10 inches from the curb in the front yard.
10 feet.
10 feet, I'm sorry. Okay, and 7 foot 5 inches and 6 foot in the side yards, 15 foot in the rear yard, and then it would also provide for the applicant to provide an escrow deposit, the balance of which gets returned after various costs, fees, and expenses are taken out by the village under the code provision in 575-280 subdivision B. And finally, that the construction and use be pursuant to the instant application, and that the plans and specifications be presented with this application, remain the plans for the as-built. Further, the site plan approval would be reassumed and granted. The architectural review is reassumed and regranted, and the facade would also be approved as shown in certain drawings of Bahari architecture, drawings T-001 dated March 23 of 2017. And finally, that the covenants and restrictions previously granted in the county clerk's office consistent with the zoning board of appeals be amended within 90 days of your approval here and recorded within 30 days after filing within the village clerk, such that those CNRs would then be consistent with this board's resolution. So there are a number of technical pieces to this resolution, but summarily, it would be for this board to grant approval for the area variances that had previously been shown on the site plan but not separately approved. The applicant may wish to supplement that at your convenience. Mr. Schlesinger, who represents the applicant, and also will describe the community benefit.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. I'm Stephen Schlesinger, 300 Garden City Plaza, Garden City, New York, and I'm the attorney for the applicant. Mr. B took half of my speech away. The only thing I really have to add to that is what the public benefit is, which is very timely at this moment. The applicant has agreed to expand the sidewalk on Piccadilly, making it wider and providing sidewalk lighting, which will cost the applicant, by Mr. Bahari's estimate, about $75,000 by widening the sidewalk, redoing it, and making it more amenable for the public. So that would be the public benefit that we're doing for this.
Is it by the Piccadilly or by Middle Neck Road?
I'm sorry. Not on Middle Neck Road, on the side street.
On the
Piccadilly.
Piccadilly.
On Piccadilly.
Yeah, talking to the mic.
Yeah. Which seems to be very timely considering the prior application. The variances and the issues were fairly outlined by Mr. B. If you want, I can say them again, but I don't think there's a need. And we're here to answer any questions, and Mr. Bahari can explain how he's going to do the sidewalk.
I have the revised site plans here. I'd like to distribute to the board.
No, this is dated today.
Okay.
This is.
As far as the sidewalk
This is dated March.
incentives for the sidewalk and the lighting is concerned, we are expanding the sidewalk on the Piccadilly side to 10 feet. On the Middle Neck Road side, the current sidewalk will remain as is, and there's currently landscaping and a bench for the public to rest and sit. Yeah, actually, no, you have the hard copy is the latest sidewalk. But you could blow this site plan up if you can, please. Yes, please. Thank you. A little bit more. Okay. So as I mentioned, on the Middle Neck Road side, the sidewalk will remain as is. Currently, there's landscaping past the property line, and there's a bench for the public to rest. So that's been, if you will, given to the public already. On the Piccadilly side, as I mentioned, again, we are expanding the sidewalk to 10 feet, and we're providing 3 light fixtures along Piccadilly to provide more ambient lighting for the pedestrian safety. And if there's any questions about that, I would be happy to answer. Otherwise,
So currently, the sidewalk on Piccadilly is 9 feet,
Correct.
and you're making that to 10 feet by giving 1 foot of. I'm sorry. So you're giving 1 foot of the property to the sidewalk, so there's going to be 10 feet sidewalk on Piccadilly.
Correct.
As far as Middle Neck Road, you're suggesting to give a.
Well, we have already given that whole landscape strip plus a bench for the pedestrians back in the original approval back in 2010. And we could continue to maintain that.
I do also see lighting by Middle Neck Road.
Yeah, as you can see on the site plan, we are relocating the existing 2 light fixtures that are on each corner, presently at each corner of the lot. We're relocating it to a more convenient location to provide more ambient lighting for the Middle Neck Road sidewalk.
So how wide is the sidewalk on Middle Neck? Because it looks like the bench is set back off the sidewalk, is that right?
Correct. The bench is essentially inside the property line. So you have a clear access sidewalk on Middle Neck Road.
It's a 10-foot sidewalk.
10-foot sidewalk.
And it's a 10-foot sidewalk, yes.
So is the area that the bench is that not part of the sidewalk?
Correct.
That's in the property.
And by reducing the 2 light fixtures on I'm sorry. By reducing the 2 light fixtures on Middle Neck Road, are you leaving a gap in the middle where the bench is? Would it be advantageous to have more lighting there?
The lighting is spreading. The lighting on Middle Neck Road is located in a way so that it should light up from the corner of the property up to the bench for 1 light fixture, and continuing from the bench onto closer to the corner for the other light fixture. If the board wants, we could add another light fixture, but I think
Well, they're more closely spaced on Piccadilly. That's why I'm asking. I assume that the spacing on Piccadilly has something to do with the cast that they have. So, since they're spaced more closely on Piccadilly, I was just wondering how the proposed light fixtures on Middle Neck would be able to reach across the whole property.
Okay, we could add another light fixture. So that would be a total of 3 on Middle Neck Road.
The other thing I wanted to ask you, do you have, we would like to have these to be more of a design look, not just a floodlight coming down like you had in the other property. So if we can see what kind of a lighting or what kind of a fixture you're proposing, that would be great as well.
I have a detail of it on the bottom of that sheet that you're holding. Bottom middle, there's a detail of that light fixture.
Yeah, I see it.
It's a LED light fixture. If the board
Do they
wants,
exist already or no?
No.
They're not. Okay. Is it possible to make it a little bit more of a ornament?
Yes.
So it's not going to be we do have few of them. There is one. There's a what is it? North of Arundel. That's Oxford. They do have a few of those lights going all around the building. I think that's something that would actually look nice.
I will work with the building department superintendent to revise those lighting.
Okay. And is it 15 feet high, 12 feet high?
It's 12 plus 3-foot base.
Okay, so it's
But if we're going to revise it into a more ornamental, obviously we're not going to include that base, so it's probably going to be a little bit lower, more to scale, human scale.
Mr. Bahari, can you tell me what the last revision of the plans are?
What was the question, I'm sorry?
The last revision date on the sheet A1 that you're holding is, sorry, the last revision date on sheet A1 that you're holding is as stated on the revision side, on the bottom right corner, which is today's date. The other sheets are as shown on, as submitted to the board previously. What's her name? Karen, can you zoom into the bottom right?
It's April 29th of 2019?
April 29th, 2019. That's a plan review was April 29th.
I think.
That's today's date. No. What does that say? Can you go on sheet A2? Next sheet, please. Zoom into any of these sheets is fine.
Oh, right there, zoom in. July 19th. July 19th.
Yes.
Coming up next. July 19th.
I don't care, I might be on style. It does not everything is
It looks like it's on the floor.
Looks like what?
It looks like he's
Is the page T1 is as you have on the
No,
second
there's
floor.
another one. Hold on. There's, they're all mixed up. There's different dates. There's one where the last date is April of 2019. And there's several that are 2016.
Why not pass it based on today's date?
Sorry, the last date.
Revised drawings with today's
Can you zoom into the
That's
bottom
it.
here?
Yeah. So page 2 of 11 says April 29th of 19.
The last revised date is 7/24/19. And that should be true on all the dates.
Last revised date, 7/24/19.
With the exception of this one.
With the exception of A1, correct.
The exception of A1, which is,
Today.
yeah, 8/6. No, 7/24.
It's more clear? All right.
So we put this into the resolution.
Mayor, I would like to read into the record a fairly lengthy proposed resolution at such point in time as the board is ready.
Any questions about the design and the incentive from the board?
No, not for me.
What's the incentive?
Well, they're giving back 1 foot from here, and then they're giving the lighting, and they already have given this. And the bench.
At a cost of approximately $75,000.
Yes.
Well, the lighting, they're going to see that. The lighting's expensive.
Have you shown the facade yet?
Not yet.
Right.
This coming up next.
Oh, you haven't gotten to the facade yet? Oh, I've seen it, okay.
Okay, if you're ready.
Yeah.
So, again, we're updating, updated version of previously approved. Last facade was approved back in October of 2017 from a more classical style design, and we're proposing a new modern style design. So our first approach to designing this facade was to provide a archway, two-story archway on the Piccadilly side, if you will, flat archway in the stone color motif. Let me just pick out.
Yeah, it is.
This stone motif is made up of what's called a trespa panel, which is a composite fiberglass panel, and we're showing scoring patterns to make it up, bring down the scale a little bit to fit the facade. Inside this archway is the main entrance to the building, which is a glass and metal frame entranceway. Above that is a 3-foot protruding overhang canopy. And above that is what's called the fins or tubes in what I presented before is extruded aluminum tubes in that wood color motif. And the balance of the wall will also be a trespa panel in that wood color as shown on the rendering. On the middle next road side, if you slide over to that, is a more scaled down version of the same idea. We have a lower archway in the same trespa panel material and the same color. And we're continuing the horizontal of the canopy all the way across and around to the middle neck road portion to sort of extend that expression across. That would be in extruded aluminum, which will be wrapped around the steel beam. On the inside of that arch, again, we're proposing a glass and metal frame patio doors into the patio over there, and the wall and translucent glazing. The side and the rear of the building will be clad in stucco. This is the size where it is not readily viewable to the public. So we're cladding that in stucco and what's called a snowball white color by Parex. This will be extension of the color of the stone motif in the front. Basically, that's our extent of.
Are you good on the south side? Is there any breaks on that white motif that you mentioned? This is the
On
north.
the Piccadilly side, you mean?
No. This is the Piccadilly side. That's the Middle Neck Road side.
Oh,
that's
the south side. Okay.
South side.
So the south side has a stair tower. That's also in the same composite panel that I mentioned before. So the entire stair tower is wrapped in that panel. After that,
Even the south side.
correct.
Uh-huh. So
The south side of this lower, the one-story portion, will be the same as what you see on the north side.
So it's the same thing. So then after you pass the
corner.
staircase or the stair.
Before the stair tower, we're continuing the wall panel, the wood wall panel, and some glazing, and then there will be the stair tower. After the stair tower in
when
the back,
so at that time you can't see anymore. Okay,
correct,
good.
that will be clad in stucco.
Because over there, where it currently is, it's readily visible for
Yes.
people that are walking
Yes.
north.
Correct.
Okay.
Can you describe the paving material of the sidewalk and the
The
area
paving
in front?
material
Yeah.
of the sidewalk is We're going to maintain the village-approved sidewalk paving color and pattern that's used throughout the village. So that's not going to change. It's shown a little bit darker on this particular rendering, but in actuality, it's a little bit, I think it's a little bit more red tone.
And the pavement used adjacent to the building?
In front of the building is a more gray tone color of pavers to kind of match or to go along with the stone color of the wall.
Are they permeable pavers?
They are permeable pavers.
The other question I had, because of the intersection and the location of the place, you do have ballards that are on the west side of the building?
We have currently bollards on the west side of the building, hidden in the landscaping. They're
And
painted
Are you
black.
planning to have anything on the north side, as there are? I mean, that's a.
It wasn't planned previously, but we'll be more than happy to provide that for
But I'm just thinking as
additional
of the
security.
safety, I don't know if that's something that the board would think it's going to,
On the Piccadilly side?
on the
Yes.
Piccadilly side.
Bollards to prevent a car from mounting the sidewalk.
We could
I mean,
provide that.
just want to make sure that, cars don't just.
Right. I mean, we're proposing light fixtures in that location, so I'll work with the building department to integrate the light fixtures with
Right.
some.
And also,
some
I think
bollards
one
as
thing
well.
that I've seen, even though the plantings are really beautiful, I think they are sort of blinding the side. So if you can just maintain them a little bit shorter, I
Trim
think
them.
that.
Okay, I will note that.
Peter, at this time, if you would like to just read that lengthy statement so we all get bored.
Well, there's about 2.5 pages of whereas clauses that I'll skip over that basically describe the history and that I previously summarized for the board. But the resolution, the resolved clause would read,
Yes? Okay.
It's Rebecca Rosenblatt Gilliar. I'm just curious to know, I see that there are two entrances, and one is the primary entrance. But it would seem to me that an entrance is also the place, the reason you put the 3-foot shelf above the entrance was to protect people when they come in and out in inclement weather, for example, not just for design purposes, because it's kind. So why wouldn't there be a similar overhang on the Middle Neck Road side?
Use the
That's the
microphone.
Middle Neck Road side, correct?
Right.
Right. So the main entrance is on Piccadilly, yes?
Correct.
And there is an overhang, so that when people come out, if the weather is inclement, they're underneath the overhang. Why
an
isn't
entrance
there
and
an
egress.
overhang
It's an
on the Middle Neck Road side?
That's a good question. Thank you very much. The answer to that question is the main entrance is on the Piccadilly side. The Middle Neck Road, those doors are merely patio doors, and that's only used to go out into the patio when the weather is nicer. So we really don't want to emphasize or accentuate those doors to mistake it with the main entrance on the Piccadilly.
On that note.
Okay, please. Could you please?
Let me ask you a question. On that note, what Rebecca mentioned, would you suggest to make that 3 feet, even maybe to 5 feet or so? Is that something, first of, as of code, is that going to be considered as they're having a less of a setback, or is that, if that's okay? But is it okay to, would you think that it's a good idea to increase that to maybe 5 feet?
You're talking about the awning?
The awning.
Extension, okay, the canopy. Okay.
The canopy.
That's actually a good idea. I will look into the code and see if we're allowed to have that protrusion into the side yard. And
If it's according to the code, I think it's okay to do, and I don't know if something that we can use the incentive to, Peter? Right, so we can possibly do that we're going to extend that to instead of 3 feet to 5 feet, so we can have,
Let me locate that on the 2.5 pages.
let him just answer me and I'll.
Okay.
If the board will bear with me, as I said, there would be in the resolution for the minutes, there'll be a series of whereas clauses which will summarily recite the history of how this matter came
Can we
before the
wait
board.
until this recited and then you ask the question? Thank you.
And then the resolved clause would read as follows. First, that the proposed action constitutes an unlisted action pursuant to SEQA. That the impacts that may be reasonably expected to result from the proposed action have been compared against the criteria of 6 New York Code of Rules and Regulations, Part 617.7 C1, single I through 12 XII, and that the proposed action presents no likely significant and adverse impacts to the environment, and as such, no further environmental impact review pursuant to SEQA is required. And the Board of Trustees hereby adopts a negative declaration of environmental significance for the proposed action, and that the mayor is therefore authorized to execute Part 3 of the EAF, which has been presented to this board, and further, that after consideration of the general standards contained in Village Code 575-170.9, subdivisions A through L, the requested conditional use permit to maintain a religious purpose use of the property as a house of worship and expand the use to include an associated accessory religious use dwelling unit for the sole use of the clergy, as contemplated in Section 575-105, and authorized to be granted under Code 575-170.9, is hereby granted to the applicant for use of the property, subject solely to the conditions contained herein and other applicable restrictions of law. Next, the parking request to maintain 2 parking stalls of the property pursuant to 575-155G is hereby granted in that the November 21, 2017 resolution of the board with respect to the property is hereby reaffirmed. Next, the request for approval of adjustments of the 845 square foot or 13% of building lot area is approved, and the 5 foot from the property line and 10 foot from the curb in the front yard approved, and the 7 foot 5 inches and 6 foot in the side yards and 15 foot in the rear yard in exchange for the opportunity to advance the policy of enhanced streetscape, walkability, and safety of the community is hereby granted after consideration of Chapter 575, Article 31, and Code Section 575-287, Subdivision B, and contingent upon the following. First, that the applicant provides the amenity that was described this evening, both verbally by the presenter and in the drawings submitted simultaneously herewith, and which the board hereby determines to be adequate in exchange for the requested development adjustments prior to obtaining a certificate occupancy for the work contemplated in this resolution. And second subcondition, remittance of an escrow deposit, the remaining balance of which will be returned upon receipt of a certificate of occupancy as contemplated in Part A herein. And C, remittance of any village costs, fees, and/or information as may be permitted by law and required by the building department under Code Section 575-280B. And D, construction and use pursuant to the instant application and the plans and specifications presented with the instant application and which were dated July 24th, 2019, although page A-1 was dated August 6th of 2019. Next, after review and reconsideration of Chapter 575, Article 25 of the Village Code, including but not limited to 575-220, -221, and -223, the request for site plan review and approval pursuant to 575-225 is hereby reassumed and regranted, subject to a further extension of the awning, which would be subject to the approval of the Superintendent of Buildings. And next, that after review and reconsideration of Chapter 575, Article 18 of the Village Code, including but not limited to 575-178 and 179, the request for architectural review and approval pursuant to 575-182 is hereby reassumed and granted, in that the November 21, 2017 resolution of the Board with respect to the property is hereby reaffirmed. Next, after review and consideration of Chapter 575, Article 30 of the Village Code, included but not limited to 575-273, the proposed facade, as shown in drawing T-001, dated July 24th of 2019, of Bahari Architecture is hereby approved, and that the covenants and restrictions recorded in the Office of the Nassau County Clerk in Liber 12827, page 351 through 387, shall be amended to be consistent with this resolution within 90 days of this resolution's filing with the village clerk and recorded within 30 days thereafter. And if that motion is to be made by a member of the board?
I would like to get an advice of counsel.
Very good, sir.
Thank you.
Feel free to call. Or you could email me also.
Okay. Email you would be the best way. So are you an architect?
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, nice to meet you. Yeah, thanks.
شما بیاین که نسبتاً میشه شما اسم شما چیه؟
میتونم
چون که
اون مسئله بود این شکل کنیسه
این چون که وسط ویلیجه همه میدوننش واسه همین یه خورده میخواستیم قشنگ‌تر بگیم اسم که روش هست کول اسرائیل آخی این شکل کنیسه هست اینو اول پروپوز کردیم ولی چون که ویلیج میخواست خود بیشتر و مادرتر بکنه اینو گذاشتیم سلامت باشید
Yes. Can we lower the AC? People are complaining about the cold. Noise. Okay. Can we just
Don't turn off the AC, just drop it, raise it by 1 degree. 69 was too hot.
You want? Can she say something behind you?
Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
So I have, I'm Karen Rubin, I'm with Great Neck News. I have a question, number one, related to the construction that concerns your resolution, which is, I'm not understanding why you're not seeing what the other side looks like that's going to face the residences. You seem not to be concerned about, you asked for samples for everything, but you don't have examples for the other side. And that's
It's the same thing as this side, he
No,
said.
I think he said it's stucco,
No.
he's,
You want to say that again?
you said on the back, on the south side,
Those
it's
fairly
like
sure.
this, but the side that will face the residences up Piccadilly is stucco. Is that correct or no?
Let him say it again.
No,
So
no, use the mic.
the side directly opposite the one story will be similar to what you see now, up to the stair tower that's sticking out. You see beyond this wall, there's a stair tower sticking out. So up to that point will be the fiberglass composite panels and glazing. After that will be the stucco. The whole side yard and the back will be proposed stucco.
It's the same color?
It's going to be a white color, which is similar color to this.
So it's up to you to decide, but that's what the residents, that's what's going to be facing them. That's what they're going to be seeing. So I don't know what that's going to look like. But I do have a question about the construction, which normally I think is included in these variances. There are usually certain conditions in terms of the construction. My understanding of a sign that says hard hat area is that no one can go in without a hard hat because it's a construction site. Right now, the thing is stripped of the top. There are broken tiles or stone. There's construction all around, concrete material and I don't know, the debris all around. And you have kids, people walking in and out. This is, as the construction is going on with the steel frame and the broken stuff all around, people are using this facility. I'm not understanding that. And when I directed a letter to this board, I got zero answer.
So, question is to the building superintendent. If you have, when you say it says hard hat, does it mean during the construction? Does it mean all the time?
It means anybody working on the site should have a hot.
It means anyone going into the building.
It means anybody working on the site. It doesn't mean that the residents who are going into the building have to wear a hot hat.
Really? Because whenever I've gone into a building to inspect, even one that was absolutely completed,
That is a
it
different
says hard
situation.
hat.
You as a representative of the newspaper should be
No,
wearing.
I was going in as a prospective resident.
Okay, with all due
Yeah,
respect,
with all due
we had
respect,
them build
okay.
a sidewalk bridge to protect residents walking in.
You use a microphone?
Oh, yes.
As far as cleaning up the site, that's going to be the first thing they're going to do, because I won't make sure of that. Right now, the job is stopped. They will clean up the site. They have installed a sidewalk bridge. So anybody walking from the sidewalk into the facility is covered with, it's a scaffolding for all intents and purposes. And anybody who's working there should wear a hard hat.
Guys, there's no need. Len, this is probably one of the highest clapping I've ever seen.
Could you ask people to refrain from doing that?
But do me a favor, guys. I would please do not applaud. There's no reason for applauding. I would like to. Len, nice speech. Yes, Trish.
What? Trisha Moslin, 15 Southgate. You had said something about the apartment is going to be, he's going to pay rent for the apartment. So can you just explain what that meant? I heard the word rent for the rabbi living upstairs. Am I misunderstanding what you said?
Either I misspoke or you misheard. I do not recall any reference to rent. The portion with respect to what I hope I read.
Please be quiet.
What I hope I read is that the requested conditional use permit to maintain a religious purpose use of the property as a house of worship and expand the use to include an associated accessory religious use dwelling unit for the sole use of the clergy is what is being approved. As contemplated in Code Section 575-105 and authorized to be granted under 575-170.9. Did I say authorized to be rented?
Is that what you said?
It should be authorized to be granted.
Okay.
Authorized to be granted.
Granted.
My apologies.
You should say it slower.
I should say it slower. I was trying out for an American Express commercial.
You get the car lease commercial.
Please, guys, this is not.
This
This
first
is not
grade.
Nice. Please.
Come on, act your age, please.
All right.
Weird. I have two questions. One is, how can this building be expanded, and how can that be approved without parking for all the people who are going there? I've never seen in my whole life, I'm 57 years old, a temple, a church without a parking lot, except in Venice, where there were no cars. There's some beautiful synagogues in Venice, no parking. I've never seen it.
Guys,
So
no
on
comment.
Shabbat, people might walk to synagogue and might not need cars. Every day, morning, noon, and night, people come to the synagogue. Again, I drive down that street all the time. There are cars on both sides of the street parked, which only allows one vehicle to, pretty much one vehicle or two tiny little smart cars might be able to drive down the center of the street. If there's a bus, a school bus, a truck, there could be a head-on collision. Every day I drive there. My children are young drivers, new drivers. There are old drivers with poorer eyesight than myself. If the town can make a rule, if the rabbi can make a rule in the synagogue that everybody parks on the north side of the street or the south side of the street, the same situation is happening right now in front of this building. Both sides of the street cars are parked on both sides of the street, and there's only room for one car down the center. We know it because we live in this town and we're all pretty careful, but if somebody from another town is driving down the street, there could be a head-on collision. And I know people have died in head-on collisions. We don't want anyone dying because there's a synagogue there or because there's a town meeting tonight.
So I
that's
think
one
your,
question.
Your point is well taken.
The other one is about bushes in the front. The bushes, the shrubs or the hedge right on the corner of Middle Neck Road and Piccadilly. It's the southeast corner, are way too high. You cannot see, and the road curves, you cannot see, and the cars are going too fast. They're going 40, 50 miles an hour, and buses, you cannot see them till they're right there. I think the hedges are supposed to be 3 feet high, 30 feet back from the corner, according to the town ordinances.
Right, so I mentioned that, and I think they said that they're going to do it. As far as your first comment, I think it is a good idea to ask. I'm going to discuss it with the DPW to see if we can make the parking only on one side, if that is going to enhance the safety. That's not an issue. We can definitely discuss it. I can't promise that it's going to happen. I need to hear what Louis and the DPW has to say, but that's a good comment.
Will they be parking below the building?
No.
Or it's just on the street? It's just going to be street parking?
And 2 parkings on the side, right.
Can they,
It's the same
are
parking
they
that was-
planning to rent parking from Temple Beth El, maybe?
It's the same parking that was approved in 2010 on this
For a much
application.
smaller building, for a
But-
much smaller
But you see, one thing that
structure.
Right, so what they're proposing, from what I've heard, is that structure in front that is butting out from the building, the current building, is where the kids used to play outside. Now they're going to play inside because they did not have any place for the kids to play. So all the kids used to come on the outside and the front. Now, by them going in, it actually increases the safety significantly, 1. And 2, we don't have...
Synagogue itself is the same size.
The synagogue, the use of the synagogue is the same. So there was no need, except the residents upstairs, that, there was one car that was dedicated, I believe, to the rabbi, and
One
that's
spot.
the same, one spot. And that same spot is going to stay. So we're not really increasing the number of the congregants.
Can they park by Bruzel's, the old Bruzel's? There's nothing there right now. Well, in the evening, people drive to synagogue in the afternoon, and they open their cars and they talk in the street.
So we can, listen,
not on the sidewalk. I'm so worried someone's going to get hit.
Robin, the old Bruzel's is private property, so we can't recommend anybody park on
Can the
private
temple maybe speak to the owner of that property and rent that big parking lot right across the street from you, right north of you? Make a parking lot there, that would be great. Or the Bruzel's right now, until there's a new building at Bruzel's, it's a big parking lot that's empty right north of you guys.
Thank you.
So if you can, somebody could work on that, that
I'll
would be
address
great.
that with DPW.
Thank you.
All right. Yes.
Hi, I'm Cohen, 5 Piccadilly Road. I just want to thank the rabbi for really renovating that space. That space, if people remember it, it was a gas station, dilapidated gas station for years and years. Thank you for the rabbi and the owners of the property. Yeah, cleaning that gas station and making it into a presentable area. Right now, it's not presentable. Right now, since the stop work order, I live right there. I live across the street. It looks really, really bad. I sincerely ask to continue the construction. Just to the scene over there is really not a nice scene or safe. It's in everybody's best interest to finish the construction as soon as possible. For look and feel. Maybe, I mean, the place is going to look fantastic. But I have to give it to the lady. The lady has a lot of wisdom. And I want to thank her for everything she's been saying. Really, I thank you. I have to send you a thank you card because you really did me a favor. I have to agree with her. That the parking situation is kind of a mess, and the rabbi has been really accommodating to me. as far as parking, because people come to Dublin in mornings and nights, I have no issue. Please, everybody here is invited to come to the synagogue on Shabbat, and somebody here has offered to bring alcohol shots. So everybody here is welcome to come. This is a Saturday. But if the suggestion could be taken that the parking on the north side of Piccadilly Road can be restricted. I have a neighbor, Mr. Abner Sheffer, who's 97 years old. Before he became mayor, he asked me to come to the board, before the previous mayor and the previous board, to ask for a 4-hour parking limit on the north side of Piccadilly Road. And because he's 97 years old and he used to drive back then, I agreed with him, and I came and I supported it. I wrote a letter. But right now, he doesn't drive anymore, and I don't park there. I have my own parking spot. But it is kind of unsafe. The Piccadilly Road is narrow, and it's really a corridor. A lot of people use it. That traffic stop is used heavily, and when people are parking on both sides of Piccadilly Road, it becomes a little bit unsafe. If the board, separate from any application, I don't want to hold anything they're doing up, but if the board would please consider restricting parking on the north side of Piccadilly Road, at least my property, which is 5, and my neighbor, 7, he doesn't drive. We don't park there, and by not having anybody park there, it would actually make Piccadilly Road much safer for the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Mayor, I would note also for the record, which I think I forgot to mention earlier, that this matter was referred to Nassau County Planning Commission under General Municipal Law 239M, and we did receive a letter of local determination today.
Thank you.
I just want to thank the board, the mayor, and all the members, and all the great supporters. We're doing this synagogue altruistically for the community, and also I want to thank all the concerned citizens, Mr. Halimi. If we said something wrong, God forbid, I hope you apologize. Okay, I apologize if I said something wrong. But in any case, I support all the community to embrace and bring peace and harmony to the community. And thank you very much again.
Good evening.
Good evening.
If you let me first, I want to face people and say something to
No,
them.
you have to face us.
Okay.
Name and address.
Albert Halimi, 6 Willys Lane, Great Neck, New York. I came here several weeks ago. My intention was nothing except saving the life of everybody in this community. I would do anything, and I did it before, to save life, and nothing else would stop me. On top of everything else, since 2 weeks ago until now, they slander me through him, through this rabbi, the whole community. They did defamations, they threatened me, they threatened my family, and not only I would not forgive him, I will not forgive anybody who is sitting over here who did that by calling me, by texting me, and by threatening me. This is not a village. The second you came as a mayor, and every one of you that were sitting over here, you came in that this village is going to be friendly village. This is how friendly it is. This is how friendly it is. This is the people that are beyond me. And the guy say, move out. You know what? I tell you what's going to happen. You doing this to yourself, and obviously is going to come the time that unfortunately people is going to get hurt, and then the blabbermouth that is sitting back there, it has to answer for it. Because there is tremendous amount of endangerment on this property. I tried to come in and correct it. I didn't come here to stop it. I came over here to correct it. I'm not going to continue this. I know, and you know it, every one of you that's sitting over here, you know it as well, especially building inspector, know it very well. If somebody goes and break to somebody's house, as a neighbor, it's your duty to call the police. As neighbor, you are a witness, so you call. That doesn't mean that you are whistleblower. You are witnessing something, so you trying to make a best out of it. And then if the thief is arrested, he's going to point at you and say, oh, because you called the police, I got arrested? Okay, don't break to the people's house, don't be a thief, and you don't get arrested. As simple as that. This is not even close to what it was there 2 weeks ago. But you want to do it? Do it. Do it anything you want. You want to make this village as unsafe as it's possible for every resident? Every bleeding heart is going to be on your hand. For last 2 weeks, I had tremendous amount of threat from these people that's sitting here and many other people.
Shh, guys. Shh. Stop, guys. Please, one second. So, guys, this is I'm sorry, guys. Mrs. Glass, and whoever said whatever they said. Listen. We are a village. It's a small village. We're 10,000 people. Only 10,000 people. We're sitting here. Everyone's different. Many of us are from different countries, and we all really here to live side by side. To ask anybody to leave is unbelievably unacceptable to this board, to me, and it should not be spoken. We should not speak in this matter. That's one. Two, I may disagree with Mr. Halimi, he may disagree with me. I have disagreement with my board, I have disagreement with the rabbis, I have disagreement with other people. That doesn't mean that I am right or I am wrong. That means that we are different. None of us look the same. Many of us come from different part of the planet. He believes in what he believes in. And I respect his belief. And I believe that he really truly meant to protect the community that are against her statements, i.e. that she lives in that neighborhood. And I don't agree that she lives in that neighborhood. But she had great points also. She did mention that we can do certain things to make that place safer. I agreed with her, and I will look into it. We discussed sidewalks. It was suggested by some to get rid of the sidewalk that already is there. I heard that we should continue the sidewalk. We heard from other people. And I believe the board took that off the agenda, and we're not going to ask them to rip the sidewalk off, and we're actually going to say to fix the sidewalk if it's going to enhance the safety. It's our most important job as the village trustees to make sure that everyone here is safe. No one should say anything otherwise. And if Mr. Halimi or someone else comes and speaks and is asking for safety, I have never told him, and he had emailed me and I responded to him, I never tell him that you're out of line. He's not out of line. He has concerns. He's allowed to say his concerns. No one should ask him to leave. On the other side, I think I've said it before, we have to live and let live. There are people that are doing certain things that we may not agree with. It doesn't mean they're wrong. It's the way they live. And that's it. And please, one thing that I ask in every meeting is that we are civilized. We don't live in, some countries that people start throwing shoes at each other. We're sitting here talking. There's no reason to yell out. There's no reason to clap. There's no reason to boo. We can agree to disagree. And we've said that before. And I really appreciate, first of all, I want to appreciate everyone who has come out because I know everyone's busy. But if you really want to live in a place that you can get what you want, allow people to get what they want. And then there's not going to be so much of a bickering. I think this structure, to me, as one individual, is a beautiful structure. And I believe that it's going to enhance that area. Are we going to do certain things to make it safe? Yes, we are. Are we going to take suggestions? Absolutely.
But to start yelling and screaming and doing all this nonsense, it's just going to break the community into pieces, which is not necessary. So I ask you, I really urge you to stay calm, to respect each other. And I think with that, we can really move on to have a much better village, and we can all enjoy what we want. Thank you.
Mr. Halimi.
Yeah, I don't have
Mr.
no
Halimi,
problem.
I have
Let
a
me
question.
finish, please. I don't have any problems. Matter of fact, I'm in favor of it, to have every corner shul. But don't come over here and tell me, for everybody that's sitting over
no,
here.
no, please address us.
I have a right to say this. There was a ditch all over the building, as high as this ceiling. The man that was working on it, it had another 4 feet on above it. The all surrounding area wasn't safe. Any child could go and fall in it and be dead if not having broken hands and legs. And these people over here, they think it's joke. They think it's joke because they are unfortunately be hypnotized, and they believe that, oh, there is a Hashem. If you believe there is a Hashem, the first thing is to save life.
Mr. Halimi, if we're going to ask...
There was more than that. There was gas tank for the building as big as this. I have 3 pictures of it, okay? All the gas tanks was on the floor, not for 1 day, not for 2 days, for 2 weeks. If any of those gas tanks that is for welding, it would explode, half of this block would be gone. 100, if not 1,000 glasses would be broken. I don't know how many people would be dead. And then they sit over here and they think, oh, you know what? We are right and you are wrong.
Well,
That's how, unfortunately, this village becoming.
Thank you.
And all of it is documented and everything has picture, because you ask me, every one of you, especially Dr. Brawl, asked me where is the proof. Miss Mendelssohn asked me where is the proof. And I show it to them and I prove it to them. If somebody is reckless and careless toward the community, don't come and put the blame on somebody who's looking for the best interest of community. Obviously, there is not enough of the care and looking when it comes to this, at least with this corner, when it comes to doing construction, there's nobody. And unfortunately, I don't want to go to the details because every one of you going to take it in the wrong way. When the constructions didn't have no supervisor, when the construction is not doing the job correctly, when they're not putting fence to the surrounding area, and nobody else who's claiming that he's a religious leader, not looking into it to the best interest of the people, it is not acceptable.
You see, Mr. Okay. Okay. I don't think if it's going to be a personal attack, I have no interest to listen. Anymore.
It's not personal
no,
attack.
I didn't say to you. I didn't say to you, other people that raised their arms. So if you want to say something about the project, the board is willing to listen. If you're going to attack someone, I'm not interested to listen. It's about the project. It's about the project. It's about the tank. Oh.
Made that you can drop it from 10th floor down, say nothing can happen. So the construction is using those tanks to wear the iron, nothing to do with the safety. It's made for the safety. You drop it from 10th floor, nothing can happen.
Again, these are.
Mechanical engineering, and I know what I'm saying.
Okay, so all right. Well, if anybody wants to talk, I think we should come to the.
Okay, there is a wall.
Why don't you come here and speak?
Come here, name and address.
Again, there's nothing to do with the application. No.
My name is Mike Kehenny, and I live not too far from the shul, and I am one of the members for the last 5 years, I believe, right, since I came to Abayalon shul. I have a question for him. He's complaining, and my question is, we do have a building department in this town, like Queens, other part of the city, and we have inspectors. Am I correct?
Yes.
We have building inspectors.
Yes.
I believe these 2 gentlemen here are the building inspectors?
No.
Okay. or whoever is in charge that goes. Every step of construction that they move forward with has to be inspected, has to be signed off. Am I correct? And if it's not, it can be signed off. So I'm sure that the inspectors went there during the construction, and many other people went there. There is only one person, and only one person is making all these complaints and bringing these things noted to the board, which I don't think all of it is true. I'm not attacking him. We have definitely inspectors. We have people who go around, and I'm sure if there was any violations seen, he was given a ticket, or he was given a warning, or whatever. I mean, if anything was done, it was not his fault. I mean, he has contractors coming in, people that is out of his control to, really control, because he just hired contractors and paid them. So obviously, it's not his fault. I believe he's the only one is making all these notes on the building.
Well,
I don't
listen,
think.
we need one concerned resident. And
I
that
understand.
one concerned
I
resident
totally
said-
understand. I totally understand. Like you said, we have, respect for everyone. He has his opinion.
And again, I hope that after we walk out, not that I'm in a position of creating peace, but I would appreciate if the rabbi and Mr. Halimi shake hands and at least put this.
You just heard him a few minutes before.
Well,
He
I'm not
publicly apologized to me if he said anything.
I'm
I
not
don't think
directing, sir. I'm not directing my request to you. I'm directing the request to Mr.
I
Halimi and Rabbi and asking if we can move on. There was maybe a misunderstanding, but
Definitely do.
again,
Definitely.
I am not here to make that. This meeting is about this construction.
Guys, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
hearing me. Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Obviously, we'll do the best together with the village to coordinate a safe environment and make sure that safety is number one, and complete the entire building in a swift time, so it will be nice for the community, and we'll achieve that hopefully with the help of the inspector and everybody else.
All right, thank you.
Put the mic down.
This is your concern, Mr. Mayor, and every one of you, not my concern. This is the papers that it was issued by your office, not by me.
I don't know. I can't see what that
It's a
is.
stop work order.
Right. Okay. So there was a.
They did their job.
So they're doing their job. Right. So when
So it's not about me that I'm making the complaint.
Listen,
You
when-
are on top of it as well.
Right.
Did
But
those,
I'm not
did
blaming
those
you.
things
Concerns
got
were addressed.
But,
Many
Albert,
of the concerns that
you're-
you brought up were actually
we did.
mentioned
We are.
earlier.
I'm
Mr.
not.
Mayor, I'm not going to continue this. For me, this is the end of it tonight, and that's it.
All right.
I'm not continuing nothing. Okay? That's your
Listen.
decision. That was your decision. Is still your decision, and every one of you. Nothing has to do.
Okay.
Nothing.
Oh. Oh my God. Okay. I don't know. Okay, I hear there's no more comments. But no. Well, after we're done with this, we're going to have public comments after.
Mayor, I believe the draft resolution has been presented to the board. Is there a trustee that wishes to move the item?
Anyone's moving the item?
Moved by trustee Hope, seconded by trustee Namdar. Any discussion, any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
I just wanted to mention one thing before. I would hope that we get the design, again, of those lights and the sidewalks presented to the building inspector as soon as possible. I know that they are not coming up anytime soon, but as far as those things go, I hope that we get them before, and we don't want to get surprised by the design of those lights and the sidewalk. Just, and please get someone to clear the bushes on the corner.
The resolution having been moved and seconded, is there any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, abstract. Public at the end. Right.
Yeah, no, I know.
No, it's only 11 o'clock. Really?
He's gonna finance Article 78.
2 more hours.
Against the what? No, I don't know her. You don't know the Jenny? Article 78. She doesn't have standing.
Yeah.
right now.
We have no right on. No. No. And she says that. All right,
Ladies and
we
gentlemen.
can just continue with the
Yes, we can.
abstract.
Ladies
Guys,
and gentlemen, I would ask you to please remain quiet. The board meeting is continuing.
Guys, for those who don't want to stay here, please leave so we can just finish our meeting. We still have stuff left. All right, can we just go ahead?
Hi, the
It's-
next
Yes,
item
Mayor.
is the abstract.
I make a motion to accept the abstract.
Louder.
Moved by Trustee Mendelson. Is there a second? Trustee Namdar. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the abstract signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it unanimously. Mr. Mayor, at this point in time, the board generally entertains public comment on any topic.
Right, so, yes, Ms. Glass.
Thank you. Amy Glass, PhD, 86 Hampshire Road. I think that what we all want is to have a Great Neck that we can be proud of, that we're impressed with. The mayor and the board of trustees here, as in any village, have tremendous power. You're basically parental figures. You can help to improve life for your constituents, you can protect us and enhance the village, or you can crush it. I think it's clear that if you allow too many people to live here, not one of your constituents will be happy with the result. We don't want traffic on Middle Neck Road to look like the traffic tie-ups on East Shore Road. I'm sure the developers are putting great pressure on you to do their bidding. Unfortunately, they don't necessarily have the best interests of our village in mind. What they want is to put more money in their own pockets. It's your top priority to consider the best interests of our village, not to cave in to the demands of the developers. Speaking of that, I'd like to turn to that building, if you can call it that, on the corner of North Road and Middle Neck Road. This is much too large and much too ugly to be considered for our neighborhood. It's just like a huge box, an industrial building. My 5-year-old son could have built it from his Duplos. I could go on, but I think I'll let that go.
It's an existing building.
No, not the one at North. That huge one with all the windows and the...
That was not, we established right away that was not an accurate rendering and it was not to scale.
I know,
And
but...
we requested that
Oh, boy.
we requested that the property owner bring us scale drawings, okay, so that we know
Yes,
what
but
we're
the whole
looking at.
concept was
We're
just
not
too
going
awful
to
to consider.
We're not going
Okay.
to approve a 3-block warehouse on a,
I'm very happy
on
to
a
hear it. I just
15,000
wanted
foot
to...
property.
I
Yeah,
think you really do need to hear, nevertheless, from the
Okay.
public. We are your...
No,
your
I'm-
children.
you're- absolutely,
We are
but-
important.
But if you were listening,
We're important.
if you were
We're the
listening, if
taxpayers,
you were
too.
listening, you know that we were protecting the village's interest as well by saying
Okay.
that that is
Well,
not a
I'm-
scale building.
Good, I'm happy to hear that, but still, it shouldn't even be considered. Okay, now, let's just for the moment, the new building proposed at the site of Great Neck Pharmacy. In general, I like the building, I like the look of it. I like the fact that it's nicely set back. I think any new building on Great Neck Road should be well set back so that we continue to have more greenery and benches and sculpture. I had almost word for word just what that developer was actually talking about. I do have a big problem with the parking, though. He was asking for a waiver of the parking. Where are people supposed to park? I think that that's a huge problem that needs to be considered.
Do you want me to respond to that, or you want to finish and then I'll
Well,
respond?
I guess I'll just respond.
Okay.
I mean, one possibility that I'm thinking, I hadn't realized it until this evening, was that maybe he could make his apartments larger, have fewer actual residents. That would bring down his parking needs, as well as making nicer apartments for people. Anyway, that was just a thought, a last-minute thought.
And more expensive.
Thanks for your comment.
Okay, some of the things are no longer relevant, so I'm just skipping. I did want to mention generally about setbacks for houses of worship. Now, some of the renderings we saw today were very, very nice and had nice setbacks. I think any house of worship really should have a substantial front yard, because we all know when services are over, people like to gather in front of the building. We all know this to be a fact. And a front yard would also be a safe place for children to play. I realize that it's hard to find a balance between the need for indoor space and outdoor space, but I want to urge you to consider the importance of outdoor space for any house of worship. Now, I do want to bring up something completely new, and it's just to sort of tickle your mind a little bit. I don't know if you're familiar with a program called LEED, L-E-E-D. It stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. It's something that's, I wouldn't say sweeping the country, but it's a set of standards for both new buildings and construction and renovation of old buildings, which puts an emphasis on environmentally responsible building, saving energy. Some of them have roofs that reflect light, or they put grass on the roof. There are a lot of different ways of coming up to what they call a LEED standard. And I would love to see us at least think about that, learn a little bit about that for our village. Yes.
The New York State Building Code has instituted that all new construction,
Ah.
the houses, the insulation, we're all doing that right
Oh, really? Well, that's a wonderful thing. I don't hear anything mentioned, and I'd love to see us make sure that we sort of
Because it's
move
built
into
in-
that area.
Because it's built into the code.
Okay, well, that's great, because I was thinking it would be a wonderful model for our village if our new village hall really made a special effort, to conform to the LEED standards and made a sort of a big deal about it.
You can be sure that we'll
Well,
be
that's-
focused on that.
That's great. Okay, I mean, trying to think positively, I think we have a great opportunity here with these new buildings to move in a very positive direction for the village. And I'd like us to move in a direction that we can all be proud of, with the best interests of our residents as our top priority. Thank you.
Thank you. So I want to tell you just respond to your suggestions. First of all, I always welcome what people suggest to put in that area on, but was it North Road? Those two buildings that he's suggesting to knock down and build, we all agree that the existing buildings are just horrible. They've been there for over. Yes.
Yeah, dilapidated.
It's over 30 years that those buildings have been being handed from one owner to another owner, and no one has done anything. This is the first time that anyone has come forward. Now, we have to realize that as the board, if we want change, it has to make sense not only to us, but also to whoever is going to put in 10, 20, 30 million dollars to build that place. So as far as the other one that you mentioned, that maybe they should decrease the number of the units from 10 to a fewer so they can have parking sufficient. Two things. One, okay.
He's watching Facebook.
So is it possible for this one to continue talking so I don't understand? So one thing is, if they decrease the number of the units, it's not going to be cost effective. So they're not going to be able to do it.
able to charge more for them. I don't know
It's
how
not.
the
It's not.
numbers
Well,
would
that's
work out,
see,
frankly,
the thing is, I'm not a developer, nor are you. So it's not. I would not tell them how to do their business. Now, it does make sense that 10 units is not a huge number that is going to work for that place. To decrease it a lot more is going to totally cut into their profit, which would make it almost impossible to do. So that's one. As far as the number of the parkings,
You also have to realize, in most transit-oriented developments, they do not like to offer so many parking spaces. A couple of reasons. You mentioned you don't like traffic. I don't like traffic. Cars create traffic. So if you go ahead and provide a building that doesn't have so many parking spots, what happens, you're inviting people who realize they don't need a car, because if I want to live in that place, I cannot have a car. So who lives there? People that are going to be very local. There is a supermarket right next door. There are a bunch of restaurants, there's places of worship, there's a church, there's a synagogue, there are pharmacies. They can go across the street to the cafe. So we have, if somebody wants to live there, and I know many people that are willing to stay in an area and a cheaper rent and not to have a car, so we are providing a place for them. That will bring in, or will move people that don't need to have a car and want to downsize to those areas. So I hear your concern about the cars, but you also have to realize the wisdom behind not providing so many cars or so many spots is that on a larger scale, if you go ahead and put in a building that has a lot more units and ask them, don't have so many parking spots, instead have a shuttle, that is going to prevent people from driving because they can get a shuttle to where they want to go. We don't want traffic, but we need to make it beneficial for these developers to come and build.
Yes, well, it's a very hard line to.
You're right. It's a difficult
to
thing.
walk, because we are Long Islanders and we all like to drive.
Right. But you know what? Believe it or not, there are many people who do not want
And
to
of course,
drive.
I'm even more worried about whatever building is happening on.
There are more and more people who are giving up car ownership. It's just a fact.
Here on Long Island?
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Really?
Everywhere.
I mean, I know in the city, of course. It makes
No,
complete
here also.
sense.
Here also.
It's
Young, you know what? I tell you, if you speak to young people, they don't want to drive. They want to drive initially, but most of them don't want to own a car.
They use Uber and Lyft.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, well, you heard what I had.
Thank you, Dave.
David Slenziger, 15 Beach Road. First, I wanted to compliment Mr. Barron and the building department for cleaning up the mess at 22 Beach Road very, very quickly, because many of the neighbors had reported it was overgrown. I think you folks took care of it within 48 hours, so thank you. 2 meetings ago, I did raise the question that many residents have complained to me and noticed that there appears to be an unauthorized yeshiva or some kind of religious institution at 305 or 307 East Shore Road, and I asked that someone inspect it. And also that there appears to be a residence at 26 Ravine Road that's being used to house students or other people for that yeshiva without authorization. And a member of the zoning board who lives on Ravine Road has mentioned to me that she believes there are perhaps 2 or 3 more houses in what we might call the Ravine Road area, or either on Ravine or on Ruth Court, or you know what I'm saying, those other streets there. I did ask that building department investigate. I myself have looked at the files and there's no mention of anything like that, but something is there. And my concern is, first, what kind of use is that 305, 307 East Shore being used for? And also, as far as this apparent misuse of a single-family residence into some kind of a dorm or multi-family residence, that we need to be sure that this is, everything is kosher here, and that we don't have problems with safety and other things. I don't need to remind the board of what happened at that fire on Brokaw, right, the rental, and it turned out that what was supposedly in the files here, a one-family rental, was, 24 people there. So I would urge that there be some investigation made.
All right.
Thank you.
I will direct the superintendent. Okay. I hear no more comments. Move to adjourn.
Moved.
Pedro, I just want to show you one thing. Okay, look at this. Oh, okay, go ahead, go ahead.
What is this?
I want to show you the difference of, like, there's a tremendous, what we do, look at this, what we do. See how it has everything? Now look at this one, what we do. They have all of this. You go to this website, it's like a baby website. And this is the one. No, but there's a lot. Right, but the difference is, but this is IT. This is what.
Himself. We never got out to find out. We took the kids to Bethany Park.
Yeah, no, I understand. You gotta set.
And that was
but the thing is,
and then,
no, but
let's ask